Welcome to another edition of the Roar the Lions UK podcast, episode 402, Draft Crushes. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden. We've got Poole Air Walker coming in the chat right now, and then we're going to be joined by the Brick with Grit. The Ant-Man himself will be here in about an hour's time, and we are here to break down some of our favourite players in the 2026 NFL Draft. Ash, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing okay. Just tired from working at the railways, but putting in the hours now. So in a couple of weeks' time, I can put the hours in to cover the draft with you guys rather than having to dash here, there, and everywhere, keeping them going. So happy at the same time because we all know what I'm like with the draft. I love it. So be interesting to see if Pitt can beat us or situate at the hosting the draft, because I still say we hosted it better than Green Bay last year.
We did. And Paul on the show, I think, on a one that's going to be cut up at least for the audio pod for the first time. And the daughter's in bed early, so you're here for the start. Welcome. Paul.
Yeah, that was a race. I wasn't expecting to make it, but here I am. She complied for once, and can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, sorry, There's a little delay on there, so I think I said that, and
you
it
hear
came
me?
through to you later. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Right, might be where I am in my house. My Wi-Fi might be a bit rubbish here. Although it should be all right. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we were good. I think when we're talking back and forth to you, we might have to give it a few seconds grace either side. So if we just take it easy in that respect, then we won't talk over each other.
Yeah, sorry for being on my phone as well. It was a last-minute jobby.
It's always the way, but it's all good. A few thank yous to throw out at the start to Dan Pass, subscribing at Tier 1 for his 49th month on Twitch. Thank you, Dan. Says, I hope you guys are well. So glad to support you and cheers for all that you do. Blue heart emoji, Lions emoji, and we've got Carlton Wood in the chat saying about the name the title on YouTube, which is who's your favourite player in the 2026 NFL Draft. We're going to talk about our favourites. If you're in the chat, we'd love to know exactly who your favourites are as well, because it'd be good to go back and forth on what makes them great or not so great. Let's do some news to begin. I would go through all the preamble, but you know what I'm going to say. Discord, College Football Podcast, Lions Nation Unite, tips, all that sort of stuff. Let's get on with it. The Lions off-season dates have been announced. The first day is April 20, which makes it about 3 days, if I got my maths right, before the start of the NFL Draft, which is pretty close. Maybe getting people in the building to host a watch party or something, I don't know. And then OTAs, May 27 to 29, June 2 to 4, and June 9 to 11, followed by mandatory minicamp, June 16 and 17. I mean, it's much for muchness these dates, but you know, the season's coming around sooner than you think, I guess. And one bit before we get into the transactions is that Dan Campbell has spoken about what at the moment is Edge 2 in DJ Wareham and Levi Onwuzurike, which is quite interesting. Wareham, of course, signed a 1-year, $3 million deal and appears to be the leader in the clubhouse, but Levi being talked about as that guy who's going to be that big end. I think a lot of people still regard him as a defensive tackle, talk about him being in that defensive tackle rotation, and it very much seems that Dan Campbell does not really see him in that way anymore, but also quite interestingly talks about DJ Wareham as this rush end and maybe trying to get him back into the sort of way that he was a few years ago, where he had 8 sack seasons in 21 and 23 with the Minnesota Vikings. And Ash, it's interesting to hear him talk about this because I think there's been a lot of assumptions about that position. It's something that we clearly want to improve on in the draft. So we kind of got some clarity about, you know, if nothing happens in the draft, this is exactly where we are. And I think for Levi, people are going to be surprised to hear him being spoken about like this.
Yeah, maybe. I know when he had his really good season 2 years ago, he was using that kind of big end role, which I know people hearing about, it's like, oh, freaking out as if it's going to be a starter. I think it's more just the kind of role he's going to play, where he'll rotate in as that big defensive end on base downs and then slide inside on passing down into like the 4 right, like you've seen Pat O'Connor do, Tyler Lacey, bit of Pascal, bit of what Davenport's done at time as well. But I think it's the best use for him. Like that one really good season he had, that's what he was doing. And again, we know that it's his one really good season. So it's nice to see that the team thinks about him well enough that they want to list him as maybe that starting that. And then with Wareham as the rush end, again, it's just the way they're going to line him. Like you still probably have him as a base defensive end, but in terms of the way they're lining him and that it's not going to be flexing as much, is going to be used more outside the tackle rather than over the tackle and that. It's just about alignments. Like right now, if you ask me, Levi will be the starter in terms of he'll get the first snap of the game, but in terms of starting reps, it'll still probably be Wareham, because I think the team does want to be a bit more pass rush focused. But I've heard it and I wasn't really shocked or appalled by anything, and kind of happy that Levi's still in the thinking, because I know with the whole conversation with him and Pascal when their contracts told over, it was a bit like, oh, we'll have him back for camp so he can fight it out. If Dan's happy enough to list him as a big end starter, then they must be happy enough to at least keep him around in camp, and he'll be here as a depth role at minimum, if not taking 50-60% of the defensive line snaps if his body can hold up.
Paul, what do you make of this all?
I'm going to preface this by saying I do really like Levi, but the fact that we are talking about him as a starter and a key contributor, given his injury history, is alarming to me. I know it's very early. We've still got the draft. We've got the rest of free agency to go, but I don't like hearing Dan refer to him as at this time anyone that's going to get serious number of snaps. We can't rely on him at the minute.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. When he came back on this
They
deal,
will come in straight away with a downer.
Yeah, no, I mean the contract's told, and so we didn't have really much choice in the matter. Pascal's gone, which I think is partly about Pascal, but it's also a show of faith in Levi because for 1 year he did actually show it. So I think it's right and good that he at least has the chance to have camp to see whether he can recapture some of that form. If he ends up, in terms of snaps taken, being the 5th guy on the depth chart, but he takes all the first down reps and none of the second and third down reps, I'm kind of okay with that, because okay, well, if he doesn't play the first down reps, someone else is going to, but he's still only playing 15-20% of the snaps, potentially, or that maths doesn't math, but you know what I mean? Like, if he's being rotated in and out of first down reps only, that's fine to me. And actually, his pass rush juice was something which was quite exciting, so even on second or third down, if he's playing the 3 technique as part of a NASCAR package, that's okay too. But you really want, at least between edge and defensive tackle, at least 3 more guys, right? And if they don't get there, it's extremely worrying because you are now relying on him. But I feel fairly confident those extra 3 above him in the depth chart are coming. I see people talking about other people we've got in the room, and it's like, I'm sorry, but they're actually just not as good as Levi, which is a shame, but it is what it is. All right, let's get on with the rest of the news. And we've got 2 signings to talk about. The first is the safety. Chuck Clark, 30-year-old free safety, 5-year starter with stops off mostly in Baltimore, but then the New York Jets and Pittsburgh. He had a torn ACL in 2023 and a torn pec in 2024, so he very much fits the mold of a Lions player right now. But if you have a look at his career, what he's actually managed to achieve in that, he's got 5 total interceptions, including a touchdown. He's got 37 passes defended, 7 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries, 1 for a touchdown, 504 tackles. So this is an extremely experienced safety in a room where we really, really needed some help, but potentially just enough help to get our injured players through to being healthy again. And looking at his most recent season at Pittsburgh, he only had 470 snaps, which is the lowest since the 2019 season, his wiped out 2023 season notwithstanding. But it's the highest PFF grade he's had in his career. It's the highest run defense grade he's had in his career. It's the highest coverage grade he's had in his career since 2020. And that Baltimore defense through the time he was there was fearsome. So This is a guy that is pretty low risk, fills an immediate need, and actually, this experience seems to kind of be rubbing off quite well on him, Ash.
Sorry, let me unmute myself. Yeah, like when I saw the Chuck Clark sign, I did like him in Baltimore, but I just see it as just filling out the depth back, like kind of there while we wait for Branch to come back. I know obviously we'll speak about a guy in a minute who we've brought back who definitely fills the Branch role more, but as a special team, kind of the Daniel Thomas replacement in a way, that we could do a lot worse. And the good thing is, at least in my opinion, Clark showed more on defense so far in his career than Thomas has, even without the injuries when he was in New York last year. Did enough when he was called upon. He was a starter when the Steelers were in the playoffs, so they trusted him in that moment. And he can do enough on special teams that you could do a lot worse. He's your safety 5. He's there mostly to replace Daniel Thomas and maybe be the veteran present for Dan Jackson to learn off. Obviously, our draft pick from last year who had his whole rookie year wiped out by injury. Jackson can kind of learn under Clark this season, and then year 3 of his rookie deal, which I know isn't ideal when you're basically wiping off the first 2 seasons rookie deal, but that's what Jackson can be for us next year under his tutelage. Could do a lot worse.
Paul, you a fan?
I liked him a couple of years ago before he started getting injured every 5 minutes. It's just screams of a Brad Holmes bargain basement. I don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of it, but it doesn't necessarily get me excited.
And then to come back to you straight away, Paul, we have re-signed the defensive back Avonte Maddox. He was someone that a lot of Lions fans wanted to bring immediately back. Took a bit of time. He played very well last year, and he's back too. So plenty of depth now in that room.
Yeah, this one I really like. This is experienced, reliable. It's your bread and butter signing. I am surprised it didn't happen earlier. My only thinking is that he wanted to see what else he could get. So fair play to him. But yeah, happy to have him back in the building.
And you too, Ash?
Oh yeah, 100%. We know how much of a fan of was last year, and then he is basically our Branch while we wait for Branch to come back from the Achilles. He can do the slot coverage stuff. He can be our strong safety. He can play free safety. Can play outside corner, and he knows the system, which is the main thing. And again, if we do draft a guy in that kind of mold, because we're not 100% sure on Branch, like maybe one of the guys I'm about to profile in a bit, worse guys for them to learn off. Again, it's a veteran presence for these young safeties to learn off. Again, maybe Dan Jackson can pick up a bit of the slot coverage stuff and diversify himself. But in terms of slap 1 of week 1, whatever game that's going to be in 4 or 5 months' time, Maddox can be there as one of the 2 safeties, and I'm not worrying at all.
All right, let's get on to profiling some of our favourite players. And Paul, I don't know if you have a list of how many, but generally speaking, I like to start with the people who've got the most to say. And I know that Ash has got 2, and I've got 4. So how many are you at, do you think you want to highlight tonight?
See, this is where we have an issue, because I could probably talk about 50. So I tell you what, I can probably narrow that down to 4 if you want. Well, so you start, mate, and then I'll go after you.
All right, sounds good to me. I need to get to my folder so I can highlight the people that I want to put on here, because otherwise people are going to have no idea who I'm talking about after about 2 minutes. And we're going to start with a really, really good one, someone that I've been excited to watch and then talk about. And that is going to make one of the more interesting sibling pairings in the NFL. This is wide receiver Bryce Lance of North Dakota State. Now, Bryce Lance is going to be an interesting prospect. He is 23 years old. He's going to turn 24 just before the start of this upcoming season. He's a redshirt senior, 6'0", 3'3". No, that's not true, because he got The RAS was under that. 6026, £204. He had a PFF grade of 89.5. He's a wide receiver. Mostly he does play a little bit in the slot, but you're talking about 150 reps versus 750 reps on the outside. So, it's what's that? 1/6 in the slot and 5/6 on the outside. So primarily an outside guy at 6'2.5", which is not strange. He's been NDSU for his entire career. He redshirted the first year and then didn't play pretty much at all in the next 2 seasons. I think he had 1 catch on 2 targets in 2023 in his redshirt sophomore year. So goes into his redshirt junior year, and boy, does he break out. First team all MVFC. He led all FCS wide receivers in scoring in basically his first season in the league. And then in 2025, he basically did exactly the same. He's the first NDSU receiver. And bear in mind, NDSU have, been the best FCS outfit for, well, maybe since I've been a serious fan of the league, about 10 years or so, the Bison have been at the top of the FCS. He's the first wide receiver they've ever had to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, which is ridiculous, really, when you think about it. Turned down offers from the Big Ten and big NIL money to stay in Fargo. He's a marketing undergrad and has an MBA master's. So, smart kid who's a CSC All-America academic first teamer as well. So in his career at NDSU, basically only 2 years, 127 on 170 targets, 74.7% completion rate, 2,139 yards, average of 16.8 yards per catch, and 25 touchdowns in his career. That's, I think, 3rd highest in NDSU history in receiving touchdowns. He's only played 2 seasons. Shades of Christian Watson are obviously going to be compared here. Tall guy, not quite as big, very, very shifty. It's not going to form much of the evaluation, but it is going to be interesting to see how often they are compared to each other. What's remarkable about him is that he is primarily a vertical receiver who's had Cole Payton throwing to him, who's an interesting quarterback in this class. And Lance is going at 75% completion rate as a down-the-field receiver. I've never seen the like. Now, physically, is a 9.95 RAS, seriously explosive, 41.5 vert, 11'1" broad, 1.48 10-yard split, 4.34 40, 4.15 shuttle, 7 flat 3-cone. Maybe you'd like the 3-cone to be a little bit better than 7, but when you're carrying that much speed, that much twitch, it's okay. It really is okay. I watched a couple of games of NDSU and Bryce Lance, and I'm just a little bit in love, and I kind of knew I would be. So he is Trey's brother, as I alluded to earlier. The big detractor on him is going to be the opposition he's been facing in his career. Obviously, it's at the FCS level. Predominantly, obviously, they play some FBS teams when they play out of conference. But he's 6'2". He does look a little small at 204 pounds in that regard. He could maybe put on a little bit of weight. I don't know how much twitch he's going to lose by doing that. But super explosive, incredible ball tracking, great at the catch point, agile. The power at the catch point at 200 pounds is really, really quite something. And in some ways, because he's just a vertical receiver at the moment, really, I think he's underutilized as a prospect. So let's talk about him in a bit more detail. Run game-wise, he isn't an overwhelming receiver in the run game, but he doesn't shy away from the responsibilities that he has. He gives everything in every rep. He makes a nuisance of himself. He engages with enthusiasm. Like I say, if he puts on a little bit of weight, it's going to help him in the receiving game. But in the run game, he might become a bit more of a weapon to seal things off. And, maybe in terms of being a bit of a gadget player with ball in hand, that might help him as well. In the pass game, like I said, generally an outside receiver. But when he's in the slot, he's still very, very productive in the few reps that I saw from him. So I'd love to see him as a kind of big slot a little bit more. Put on another 15 pounds, 20 pounds, be at 220. Hopefully you don't lose that much twitch. And then can you be that sort of triple threat weapon where you can take it out the backfield, he can be a vertical threat, and then he can be that guy who has like choice and option routes from the inside. I think I'd love to see a little bit more of that. They did use him in kind of jet sweeps and stuff like that, but his real calling card, as I said, was down the field stuff. I haven't seen such a good ball tracker in a long time. Basically, every bloody catch he had was like over the shoulder throws on go balls where the ball's been placed very, very well, but he's still got to go and get it as it's travelling over his shoulder and it's coming in almost every time. One thing I love about him is how sudden he is. So in terms of creating separation, he can get it off the snap, he can beat people deep very, very quickly. But if you're running him doing comebacks, doing curls, that sort of thing, he can create some separation that way as well, which is great. He's some disguise to his double moves, and he does create some separation that way. He's got some kind of head shakes that he does, but I think he could do with kind of developing that a little bit more, because if that gets a bit more developed, good luck with this guy. He did run some crosses, but he's not doing much over the field stuff. I think he could do it more. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be just as effective. Like I said, he does do jet sweeps and that sort of thing. Going to be interesting to see at the NFL level what the release package is going to look like, because as he's quite slight for his height, if he faces press man, I don't know how he's going to get off the ball. Not to say that he's some sort of 5'8", 170-pound guy, but he's been able to win with athleticism up till now at the FCS level. He needs to be able to beat someone with hand combat and counters. And right now, he's never had to show that. So it's just one of those show me things. But I have him graded as a late first round pick. Now, that's way above consensus and what most people are going to want from him. I prefer him over Christian Watson, who was also a first-round pick. Watson was a bit of a freak athlete who had obviously some production and showed some of the same traits and was a bigger guy. So in some ways, I think if people are going to project them both out, I think people would say they think Watson's a better prospect because of the way he carried his weight. But for me, I think that Bryce is just going to be more productive in the NFL straight away as a year one guy, because I think he's a technically better player right now. The release package is going to be the really, really interesting thing. Paul, I saw your eyebrows raise when I said late first round pick. What do you think about Bryce Lance?
I like him. Like, I think he's a good player in a straight line. I have questions, I should say, about his route running, about how his release package, as you mentioned, and his breaks. He wasn't asked to do a great deal other than just run goes and posts and comebacks at NDSU, which is fine. There's a place in the game for that. I think even at times doing that, he did struggle to gain separation against, I disrespect to our FCS friends, against FCS cornerbacks. There's not going to be many of them drafted. I just have concerns about how that translates to the NFL. However, there were numerous occasions, as I alluded to in Discord yesterday, Matt, that he bailed out Cole Payton on so many occasions. His ability to adjust and as you alluded to, track the ball is really good. I've got a mid to late third on him, so on what I would call considerably lower, but I'm probably still above consensus. I think he's supposed to be a day 3. Last time I looked at mock draft database, he was a day 3 prospect.
I think he's risen up into potentially the 90s now. I'm going to have a look.
So,
he's in that sort of realm, late day 2, early day 3 guy.
So I'm more or less in line with consensus then, for once. But yeah, so I like him. He's got his abilities. I don't know how much more there is to come with him. That would be my concern, really. But he's, at what he does, very good player.
I'm just having a look now. He is currently at 87. So he just sneaks into the third. But that's down from a peak a couple of days ago of getting up towards 80. So a few recent mock drafts which have put him in round 2, round 3. Draft Network consistently puts him in round 3. But yeah. Ash, what do you think of Bryce Lance? Have you watched any of him at all?
I haven't watched much of him, but so I cede to you guys completely. Funnily enough, with the way you're describing him, he seems like a better fit for the Green Bay Packers than the one that they've already drafted in Christian Watson. Like, that is the perfect receiver for what Jordan Love is. But are they going to go back to that? Well, I don't know. It is interesting, though, that there is a wide range of consensus on him. Like, I think when Matt mentioned his take a couple of days ago, I put in the tweet from Nate Tice that he has Lance higher rated than what he did with Watson closely. I think he said it was only half a tier difference, but there is that range you can sort of opinions on him. It will be interesting to see where he goes, because I know certain people are scared off by the whole FCS thing and the fact that he didn't separate from that level of corner. So what's it going to be like in the NFL, where everyone is a couple of steps above that for the most part? It will be interesting, but there is still need for those kind of separate by body ability kind of receivers. I'm thinking the Kenny Gallaudays of the world, which I know you need a certain kind of QB, which we've seen from his career, like works perfectly with Stafford, goes to New York and flames out because they can't fit with it. Lance is not the kind of receiver that probably we will like, because Goff is very much, he needs you separate by route running or speed or whatever. He doesn't really throw you open, but the Jordan Loves of the world help Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills if they want to give up on Keon Coleman. He fits those kind of ones that can throw you open with anticipation and that, rather than relying on you to separate. So it'd be interesting to see where it goes, but I don't think he's for us, really.
No, I mean, we're taking to Slar, even though they're not similar receivers at all, it just feels a bit redundant. And because we paid JMO, it doesn't make any sense. If JMO was still unpaid and going into his 5th-year option, I would be touting this as a potential replacement for JMO while you ship JMO off for a 1+, because I don't think you're going to be replacing JMO. I don't think anyone can, but as far as you can, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that right now Bryce Lance is a better catcher of the ball than Jameson Williams. And even though Jameson has significantly improved that part of himself, there's no comparison to me. What JMO has done a lot better is go and catch the ball across the field better now. You know, the route running, he's really got down. And I think Bryce would have to go through a similar thing. That said, the only thing I really fear about an NFC North team taking him is now that DJ Moore's gone. I feel like wide receiver 3 is a possibility for the Bears. And if he does fall to round 2, above where you guys are, or Poole is, and where the consensus is, but below where I think he should go, I think the Bears are going to have a look at him as wide receiver 3 and think, yeah, I really, really like this. You know, you have a Dunze as your primary guy and then have him as your 3rd or even 4th after the tight ends. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. In terms of fits, I've not really thought about it too much. But yeah, you mentioned Stafford. That would be super interesting. I think that would fit really, really well, actually. Right, Paul, let's have your first guy.
Right. I am starting with an offensive lineman. We're going someone who Ant got me onto first, and that is, I'm going to butcher this, Febechi Nwewu from Oklahoma. So he's a redshirt senior. He spent 2 years at 3 years at North Texas, and then the last 2 years with the Sooners. I haven't done his full write-up yet because I didn't think I was going to be on here today. So we're just going to go through my notes for him. I love this guy. I absolutely love him. So he's played guard at Sooners for Oklahoma. Did a lot of centre at the Shrine Bowl, so that'd be interesting to see what teams see him as. He's got great short area and lateral quickness. He's off the snap very quickly. He's always looking for work. And when I watched him, he dealt with stunts and handoffs very well on the offensive line. Sorry, my cat's giving me the evils at the minute.
He doesn't like him as a prospect.
No. So then in the past game, I think he's got a really good anchor and really strong hands. Once he latches onto those pads, he doesn't really get moved. And then my daughter's woken up, and in the run game, he's got he can really move people. So the downside on him is he does give up his chest sometimes in pass pro. He lets catch block, as we talked about with people like Caden Proctor, Ash. He lets people get into his chest. but he normally recovers pretty well. And as I mentioned, he's got guard and centre versatility. He's pretty experienced. I say he's a redshirt senior. He's got 52 games under his belt. I'm just really high on him. So consensus, he's a day 3 guy, something like 222. And I've got him as a high 3rd round pick.
Wow, that's high.
Yeah, I don't see what there's not to like about him.
So, I mean, if he was drafted by us, is he a day 1 starter at centre? I mean, sorry, obviously we've got a centre now, but like, if we hadn't signed a centre, then say, would he be our starting centre?
I mean, I prefer him over if Glasgow was still here. If we had the offensive line from last year, yes, he'd be an upgrade on that. He's obviously not going to beat out Cade Mays, and he probably won't beat out Mahogany at left guard, but he would be pushing to do so, in my opinion.
Sounds good to me. Ash, have you seen him at all?
Unfortunately, not, no, unless he's kind of gone under the radar when I've watched Oakland. Well, had the misfortune of maybe watching Oakland game, should I say. But yeah, can't really say too much on him because it's news to me, but I trust Poole, and I will definitely, if I get a chance, have a look at least at him, even if it's just, like the ye old YouTube highlight reel, just to see, because I always like knowing what players are like when, they're drafted on day 3. It's like, oh, yep, I've heard about him.
I've got to go and sort out my daughter quickly.
That's
I'll
all right.
be back as soon as I can.
No worries. I will go for my second guy, and then Ash, if you do your first one after that. Cool. Let's do this. My second one is someone who I watched first, I believe, at the Senior Bowl. No, it wasn't. It was at the Combine. The Combine doing on-field drills, and I thought he looked smooth as hell. And I was like, I need to watch that guy. So I finally got around to it in the last day or two. And he did not disappoint. In the previous episode we did, I talked about Max Llewellyn, and this guy jumped off the page in a similar way. This is Mason Reiger from Wisconsin. Now, he has some fans, so I'm not going to be the first person to turn everyone on to this. But he... Hang on a minute. I've just noticed that I've made a potential mistake somewhere, which is going to really annoy me. Or, do they have the same birthday? No. Mason Reiger is one day older than Bryce Lance. That really spooks me. I thought I just copied it over and I hadn't changed it. Right. Mason Reiger, Wisconsin redshirt senior. He is 6'4.5", 251 pounds, slightly undersized for an edge player. There's a 1.6, 110 yard split, which is elite, but only a 4.78 40-yard dash. Who cares? They're not running 40 yards. Elite explosion, 40 inch vert and 40 inch vert, 10'5" broad. The vert for someone who's 251 pounds is insane. So this is a super explosive athlete. In terms of his position, he is a 7-9 technique, PFF grade in the most recent season, 82.4. Spent 3 years at Louisville, 21 to 23, where he had 49 tackles, 8 TFLs, 3 passes defended, a fumble recovery, and 4 forced fumbles, as well as me not actually listing how many bloody sacks he had, because I'm a melon. He had 8 sacks in his career at Louisville. And I've just got the wrong numbers here. 8 sacks, 16.5 TFLs. Beg your pardon. I wrote the sacks number as TFLs and I carried on. He missed his 2024 season with a leg injury which required surgery. This is going to factor into why he's ranked so lowly. He was going to potentially come out after 2024, had the injury, wiped out his entire season, decided to go back to college, went into the portal, and went up to Wisconsin. I mean, probably geographically up. Louisville to Wisconsin is probably a slight upgrade, probably slightly. In his time at Wisconsin, his 1 year there, he had 12 games, 33 tackles, 6 TFLs, 5 sacks, and a pass defended, which obviously is a pretty damn good return on his 1 year there versus his 3 years in Louisville. He then went to the Shrine Bowl, and he was the defensive MVP of the Shrine Bowl. He had 3 sacks in that game and basically wrecked everybody, which was quite impressive. I ended up watching their loss that Wisconsin had 37-0 against Iowa. And that's going to tell us 2 things. 1, does he ever give up? And 2, he went up against 2 NFL prospects at at tackle. So at right tackle, you have, dare I call it a Lions presumptive pick? No, I won't go that far. Everyone recalls in horror now as I say the name Jennings Dunker. It's okay, guys. He's a 3rd round prospect. We're not taking him. But he was at right tackle, and lots of people like him. And at left tackle, you've got Trevor Lauk, who potentially is a better prospect now than Dunker is now. So by the time Lauk comes out, he'll be a true junior next year, I think. Lauk could come out, and he could be high round 2, low round 1 guy right now. So this is going up against a team that should give you trouble. And I thought that he did very, very well. A significant number of reps where he was giving these guys trouble. So, because of the injury kind of tanking his stock a little bit, I think he's a sleeper in this draft. I think that people are going to talk about him as this prospect who's a legitimate pass rusher who's going to do bits in the league as long as his leg holds up. Which is an interesting thing to say. But if we're not going to take an edge high, if we go tackle in round 1 and we don't go for an edge at 50 either, let's say we go safety, let's say we go corner, let's say we go even wide receiver, as I was trying to highlight, let's say we go defensive tackle, then edge is still very much on the cards as we get to our 4th round pick, and this guy could well fit the bill as someone who actually is like a round 2 kind of caliber guy with some downside. He's a bona fide pass rusher. That is his calling card. That is what he's going to be talked about as. He's a smaller player, as I mentioned, at 251 pounds. As such, he played in a 3-4 as an outside linebacker at Wisconsin. I think that's where he's going to fit best. He will be able to be a 4-3 traditional defensive end, but it's not where he's going to be best. In fact, him being a designated pass rusher, at least to begin his career, is maybe where he's going to feature best. If he's in a 4-down lineman thing, then, bring him in for those 3rd down plays, or play 3-4 and have him on the edge opposite Hutch and maybe just rush all 5 in a 5-2. He could definitely be that guy. He, versus the run, plays with a really low pad level, like super low pad level, and it's to the point where I'm not sure it's a benefit to him. Like, he's getting under his guys, and he plays with good leverage, but sometimes you see tackles just be able to pat him on the back and he falls to the floor. Like, he's so low. If he can be balanced while he's doing that, as opposed to kind of lunging while he's doing it, then I think that could be a big asset in kind of resetting the line, driving people back even at his weight. But the technique is like something that you really, really like as long as it can be curated. And I think actually I prefer that than trying to teach people who have a high pad level how to get low. He doesn't need that. He's able to give less powerful tackles and tight ends plenty of trouble in the run game. He can reset them, but man, if you give him an NFL caliber tackle in the run game and they get hands on him, I do worry about his ability to anchor. So maybe being a 1st down guy isn't really in his arsenal right now. Having said that, against the pass, Mason Reiger, baby. Explosive athlete. He times getting off the ball very well, very consistently. He's into top gear like that. Like, the man has 1 gear and it's explosively fast. He's a technician as well, which is something I didn't really expect when I saw his athletic testing. I thought he was going to win with speed most of the time. But the way that he uses his hands to get some quick wins basically off the snap, he, within half a second, is getting to that tackle. He's barely had time to set, and he's used his hands to knock the guy out of the way. Like, even against Iowa and against 2 NFL caliber tackles, he was doing this to them with regularity. That said, despite the fact that I just said he's a technician, that speed and explosiveness I mentioned, he's got great bend around the corner and can dip nicely. I didn't see a lot of counters on the tape that I saw, but frankly, quite a lot of the time, he didn't need them. Great motor, never say die attitude, even when he does get beat, especially against the run, he's working back to the ball. If there are short passes, he's trying to cut the backside off so he can't cut back in. I absolutely love the prospects. Maybe he's just not a 3-down guy. Whilst he's not a young prospect as a redshirt senior, still believe there's some room for growth. I think the frame is maxed out. I would love to see if he could put on a little bit more weight. I mean, at 6'4.5", 251, you'd hope he could get up to 260, 270, but he just is shredded and kind of looks right like that. I worry that he might lose a step if he does it, but maybe let's see. If he could, I think he'd be a 3-down guy. As it is, he's a 2nd and 3rd down guy at the moment, and maybe will be for the majority of his career. The run D is not such a liability that you can't have him in 2nd and medium and 2nd and, whatever. If you have him down in 1st down, he's not going to make you ashamed, but he's just not going to be a weapon like that. I think he's got enough chops. He's going to make someone a very, very happy boy. Now, I do grade with injury worries included because I do think it's a part of the evaluation. Some people do and some people don't. I think he's a 2nd round caliber prospect, so maybe a late 2. But with the injury history, I've got him as a high round 4 guy, which I don't think is particularly unfair. In terms of where he is on the consensus, we have him at 219, which puts him firmly into the late 6th, comp pick 6th territory. So even with a high 4, I'm considerably ahead of that. Even as a DPR, he's going to be worth it for a lot of people. Ash, have you watched Mason Reiger?
I've watched tiny bits of him because I know he's someone we've been linked with and over is on the DLPs, mentioned him a couple of times. And it kind of works. Like, yeah, completely agree with his start that if he's the first edge we take, if we go like tackle and in the 2nd round safety or whatever, I wouldn't be disappointed. I also would not be disappointed if we do go edge and then dip back in day 3 with him as the DPR just to give us that little, boost, because once you get past this, arguably even in the 2nd round, but once you get past like the sort of top-ish guys, like the top 10, let's say, you are looking for a role player. So if we do take the big end, as we the run defending guy, and we need someone to give us that pass rushing juice that we just really don't have right now, would not be disappointed in him at all. And it's not like, he has to be a 1st rounder for that to work. Like, there's guys that have been taken from his exact college who have been later round prospects that have worked out. Obviously, you've got TJ Watt and JJ Watt who are at Wisconsin, big names, but even more recently, Nick Herbig for the Steelers, who is their kind of 3rd edge rusher in the rotation, DPR kind of guy. He's done well for himself. Van Ginkel, 5th round pick from Wisconsin 2019, started off as a kind of sort of designated guy in Miami and has now worked up to be the best Sam in the league, arguably. There's runway for him if he can just prove that the injuries in the past, and I know he's had a load of operations on that leg that went bad on him, but it does seem like a Brad Holmes special, doesn't it? In day 3, get him as a DPR, see what we can do, see if we can add a bit of run defense chops to him, even if it is just right. This in these situations, you hold this gap or you shoot it, whatever. We just put a little run defense discipline in him. He could be a good rotational guy. He's never going to be a 2 or 1, but as a 3 or 4 in your rotation in certain situations, you could probably do a lot worse.
Paul, have you seen him at all?
I have, yeah. I like him. He's going to start off as a designated pass rusher, but he's not going to be a liability against the run. He was told to medically retire by Louisville, which is why he transferred. From everything I've seen, it looks like they were wrong. I don't claim to be a medical expert, but he's played a full season on it, and it's given him no issues whatsoever. And it's not a reoccurring issue. It was one knee injury. I think it was an ACL. I'm not sure it was actually announced, but one knee injury where the operation just went wrong, and then there's another 4 or 5 operations to fix the original surgery. So it's not as if he's injury prone. He just had a bad experience. So I don't have any concerns on that part. But as you say, Matt, how badly isn't he affected? We will never know. But yeah, I like him, as you say. I'm more or less with you on his range. I've got a mid fourth grade on him, mid fourth round grade on him. I think he can probably end up going. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes in like the comp pick range by the end of the third.
Makes sense. I was just double checking the injury. So it's just described as a knee injury. So probably a cruciate ligament of some substance. And then when he transferred to Wisconsin, he had a metal rod placed in his shin to correct issues stemming from the knee injury, which is not ideal. So I'm sure that the people listening to this who are Lions fans and hate the fact that we take injured players are probably recoiling in horror at the fact that I'm suggesting this. But if you want to take someone in day 3, they're going to have something wrong with them or something not quite right with them. And Ryger doesn't have a lot wrong with him apart from this. And we've taken guys higher with problems like this who potentially are worse pass rushers. So I think that in some ways, taking someone a bit lower down like this is kind of learning a lesson, the right lesson for me, rather than just totally overlooking players like this, which I think is a mistake. It's just that maybe you don't take those swings on days 1 and 2. Anyway, Paul, I know that Ash has got only 2, so maybe if you go for a second guy first.
Okay, and I will stick at the edge position. And a shameless plug, I'll stick with another player that was on my favourite day 3 edges, which is on the website. And that is, I've got so many of these, Keyshawn James Newby from New Mexico. And it's not just because it was announced that we've met with him today. Or we didn't meet with him today. It was announced that we met with him today. But I've loved this guy for a couple of years now. I first saw him at the beginning of the 2024 season when he was at Idaho, so FCS level. He went against Oregon. He went against 2 NFL tackles. One was a first rounder, and he at times made them look silly. Johnny Cornelius, who I can't remember where he went. He went to the Cowboys, I think, on day 3. But he made him look silly. Absolutely made him look silly. Yeah, my thought on him. He's undersized. He's a speed rusher, and when I turned on the tape, I was expecting to see someone who was absolutely awful against the run, but I was pleasantly surprised. He's not technically brilliant, but he does. If he throws his all into it. He just sort of shoulder charges at times instead of getting the hands on. But the past games where he's going to make his money in the NFL, he's got great bend, good first step and great bend, which is what James Houston makes his living off. Still makes his living off. Now he's in Dallas. His hands aren't particularly active on the pass rush. He does rely on that bend and relies on ghost moves and that on the outside. He could do with adding some counters to counter off that inside. But he does make tackles overset to him. He does open up a great big gap then in between that tackle and guard. If he can then learn how to exploit that, I think he can potentially be an every down player in the NFL. But early on, he'll definitely be a DPR. He's a former JUCO star. I've got a 5th round grade on him. I can't really say too much. So high on him. I don't know where he is consensusly. Is that a word, consensusly?
Yeah. On consensus on the consensus board, he's 402.
There we go. And on my board, he's 208.
Oh wow!
But that's with a mid 5th round. This draft got a bit of a sidebar here. This draft is so weird. It's been said for so many people how there's no talent or lack of talent at the top of it. But my board is just rammed in the middle. Where at 208, I've still got mid 4th round, mid 6th round players, 5th round players.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, you got mid-fifth round guys who are going in the late sixth.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really interesting draft for day 3 because you're just going to
Yeah.
see so many good quality players going late.
Yeah, the depth in this class is awful. Is wonderful. So to give you a hindsight, I've got 54 third round grades, 57 in both the fourth and fifth. I've got 65 in the sixth,
Wow.
which is just ridiculous. I've only got 28 seventh round grades. So maybe I'm just too nice to these people, these players, or maybe that's just where the bulk of this draft is. But yeah, so that's Keyshawn James Newby, of New Mexico. I really like it.
Ash, may I be so bold as to suggest you may not have watched as much New Mexico as Poole?
Yep, that would be 100% correct. Though a certain team is playing in week 1, I believe, in this next upcoming college season. So I'll watch a bit of them then. But no, like he has been someone we've been linked with. I've heard stuff that some teams might see him as that sort of Sam linebacker, which I know we definitely might need to have a look at since everyone's forgetting the Derek Barnes thing. But there's worse places to go for sure. And
He's done. Sorry, mate. He's done nothing in coverage though, so I don't
as
really
it
like that for us personally. He's
fair
he's a
enough.
he's a pass rusher. That's what he does.
Well, there we go. Well, there we go. So another James Houston, but hopefully one that works out better. But yeah, I would not be opposed to again double dipping, as I said with Riga on day 3 if we need that just that DPR kind of guy, because we've done the usual thing of kind of going for that run stopping edge and sort of higher up, be it around round 1 or 2. And we just need someone that can be that third down juice giver that AQM was and sort of splashed out with what James Houston was a couple of years ago. Again, would not be unhappy at all.
Right, Ash, let's get you speaking some with your first guy.
Yep. So I will go with someone that recently I've loved taking in my mock drafts, but now actually having watched the guy, unfortunately I've fallen out of love with, and that is Jalen Kilgore, the South Carolina safety. He is 6 foot, 210 pounds, a 21-year-old junior, 9.60 RAS, and he has spent all 3 years of his career at South Carolina, which is obviously good. This past season, he had a 69.7 PFF defensive grade, 80.6 run defense, 74.8 tackling, 75.6 pass rush, 65.3 coverage, 44 solo tackles, 18 assisted, missed 9 no, so that's a 12.7% miss rate, 13 run stops and 1 forced fumble. In coverage, he gave up about 53% of his targets for catches, so 34-65 for 390 yards, 11.5 yards reception, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 9 PBUs, and a 68.1 NFL passer rating given up. He also had 2 hurries and 1 hit in the pass rushing game as a blitzer and conceded 3 penalties. All of those came on nearly 700 defensive snaps, 304 in run defense, 10 as a blitzer, and 318 coverage. He played nearly 500 of those snaps in the slot, 157 as a box defender, 27 on the defensive line, all outside the tackle, 9 at free safety, and 4 at outside corner. He also played 56 special team snaps, 44 on the field goal block unit, 11 in the punt return game, and 1 in the kick return game for a 60.1 special teams grade. No tackles, no penalties conceded there. The game I watched for him was week 5 against Kentucky, where he had a 62.9 defensive grade, 70.7 run defense, 81.0 tackling, 57.7 coverage. Played 49 snaps in that game, 22 run defense, 26 in coverage, and 1 blitzing. He had 3 tackles, a further 2 assisted, and 1 run stop, and he gave up 1 catch for 7 yards and 2 targets. So when it came to his college career, he committed to South Carolina over arguably bigger names in Clemson, Michigan, UNC, Ole Miss, Kentucky themselves, FSU, and some more that were kind of either equitable or lower, like Louisville and such. In his first ever career game, he had 12 solo tackles against UNC, and that season he was a freshman All-American and SEC All-Freshman on the back of a 76 tackle, 1.5 tackle for loss, 6 PBU interception, a forced fumble season. And in the other 2 years of his career, he was second team All SEC both years. The second snap of the game, is where the falling out of love started. He really bit the cheese on an end around run where he was covering the tight end in the slot. The tight end clearly goes inside as a blocker, and Kilgore, instead of just letting him do that and setting the edge in the run, follows him, and it just leaves a nice open gap for the wide receiver to run through. Later on the same drive, there's a red zone play where he's lucky the QB sacked because he loses his guy in man coverage. The guy gets open, he's clearly just waving at the QB at the front of the end zone, right in the middle, almost as if like he's trying to point where the field goal kicker should kick it if it was a field goal. Luckily, the QB snaps, otherwise that would have been an easy touchdown. Just, there were a lot of mid to meh plays by him and some really bad ones. Like, he was much better as a slot corner in man coverage on a guy. He did have some good zone field, but not exactly great, and some good reps as a kind of overhang dime backer, very much, if you remember the Jeff Code game against Dallas Cowboys like 5 years ago, where he basically just played as an overhang defender. That kind of role. And he did have a good fumble recovery on the Hail Mary hook and ladder play that Kentucky ran near halftime in the game. But again, just luck by being around the area rather than a good play in his part, sort of forcing it or anything. So my comparison for him is Drew Phillips, so the slot corner for the New York Giants, where he's good, not amazing. He's not like, Brian Branch, Dickon Morey, that kind of level. The slot corner is not even a Greg Newsome. Better in man coverage and serviceable at best in zone and in run defense. And he's currently the 7th ranked safety and 92nd overall prospect on mock draft database, which does put him at a low third rounder. I would rank him around there, but for me, he should stick at the slot cornerback stuff. And so for us, not kind of needed, number one, because obviously we play so much base, but also because we've got Branch, we've got Greg Newsome right now, we've got Izzy, and you can play there. Rakestraw, I know they're saying he's going to play outside, but believe that when I see it, kind of thing.
Who do we have at slot?
Rakestraw.
You definitely said Greg Newsome.
Who am I thinking of?
Roger
Sorry.
Roger McCreary. God sake.
I wish we had Greg Newsome. That'd be great.
So do I. Same fucking. I do apologise.
That's all right. I just had to jump in because I couldn't let that lie. Sorry.
Yeah, no, of course not. I would do the exact same to you, and you.
I'm only jumping in because you would do the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's with my fluff aside. He's better slot corner, and so while I was drafting him, number one, this was before we had both Chuck Clark and Maddox Lock on the sort of team, so we don't really need that kind of versatile strong safety anymore. But I was drafting him to be that. He's a slot corner, and so for us, pass. But I would not be surprised if we look back at the end of his rookie contract and he is a good level slot corner. But for me, just not a Lion.
Fair. I absolutely loved watching his combine workout because I thought he looked super fluid, very twitchy, very exciting. But you're right, he's a much better athlete than he is player on tape. And he could get there. Like, I think there's room for him to really grow and shine, but he's definitely going to be one of those corners, slot corners, safeties, whatever, that you're going to look back on if he's taken high after a couple of years and kind of go, is he a trade candidate? Like, he's good enough that we'll keep him around, but maybe someone will give us back a 4 and we'll think about it. And then he'll probably kind of come on at the latter part of his contract. I'm thinking someone like Igbenogany, who was an absolute bust after a couple of years, and then actually I think he's starting to make a kind of semi-solid career for himself as a kind of high-end backup. This is exactly where I see Kilgore at as well. Poole, have you seen him at all?
Yeah, I see quite a bit of him. I agree with everything Ash said. I'm not as high on him as I think both of you. I think he's a fine player. I agree, he's definitely a slot only. But having said that, I saw him struggle with the slot receivers. He's fine against tight ends. He's fine against running backs out in the flat, but against a smaller slot receivers, he struggles at times, and I don't like his run game tape personally. I think he's too many times he's pushed off the ball too easily by wide receivers and tight ends. You sort of expect it. He's losing the weight and size battle there, but he just didn't seem to want it as much in the run game, and so as I said, not a fit for us, I don't think.
All right. Looks like we're all pretty much aligned, and therefore it's time to move on to my next guy, and I've got to actually type the bloody name out, which is not short. And this is going to be a guy who is really quite low, I think, on the consensus board. Let me just check. This is great podcasting. Right, 225 on the consensus board, so not undraftable. But we're going to be talking about, from Texas Tech, the defensive tackle, Skylar Gill Howard, which is going to be a super interesting prospect. So he is 23. He's going to turn 24 in October, so into month 2 of this season coming up. He's a redshirt senior, 6'005", 280 pounds. He had, why have I not updated this stupid thing? Right, he had a PFF grade of 88.6 in this most recent season, but it bears saying that he only played 5 games before injuring himself on the 5th defensive snap against Kansas and ruling him out for the rest of the season. It was an ankle injury. Bears in mind saying that he stayed with the team and was a leader on the sideline for that team, which I think speaks to his credit. He was a walk-on in 2021 at D2 Upper Iowa as a linebacker. He then moved to Northern Illinois in 2022 after really doing good stuff. He effectively redshirted in 2022 at Northern Illinois while putting on 50 pounds. So he really transitioned from a kind of heavy linebacker to a light defensive tackle at 290 pounds. He's significantly underweight. But he did very, very well at Northern Illinois. 25 games, 75 tackles, 12 TFLs, 6 sacks, a pass defended, and a fumble recovery. 6 sacks in 2 seasons as a defensive tackle. I mean, that is good stuff. And then he decided to take the leap and go to the Red Raiders. And, I love the ambition. And he played super well in the first 4 out of 5 games of the season. Admittedly, against some maybe smaller programs in Kent State and slightly bigger program, but still small, in Oregon State. He also had his best game against Arkansas Pine Bluff. So, he's not exactly going against the creme of the crop here. He then went up against Utah, didn't have his best game, and then Houston. So he didn't put a huge amount of snaps on tape. He played 165 reps versus 449 and 292 in prior years in Northern Illinois. So this is one of the reasons why he's regarded as a high 7th rounder, low 6th rounder on the consensus board. But let me talk to you about who he is and his athletic profile. So he's got a 5.61 RAS score. Obviously, that comes off the back of being, for a defensive tackle, very small and quite light. But this is, for someone of that size, a strong man. 27 on the bench at 290. Like, that's super impressive in terms of power to weight ratio, because, that as a RAS score is like 7 for the bench when he's only a 1.5 on weight. So he's shifting significantly more than with significantly less than the majority of defensive tackles out there. He's quick without being particularly fast. So he's got a 1.8 10-yard split, which isn't fantastic. 5.06 40-yard dash, which is slightly better than that. But he's got a good shuttle, 4.73. He's got 30.5 inch vert and a 9-foot broad. Again, at 290 pounds, these are good numbers. They're not blowing anyone away, mind you. And he has got short arms, under 31-inch arms. So there's a lot to say that this guy should be going later on, because he's not a super twitchy athlete. He's not super explosive. And he has had an injury in this most recent season. That's all of the bad. I love him. I absolutely love him. So, like I said, former D2 player, injury cut his year in half this year. Applied for an extra year of college eligibility, which was denied. That's why he's had to declare. Wasn't able to participate at the Combine because of his injury, but was able to perform in full at Texas Tech's Pro Day, saying, and I quote, he wanted to show to the scouts and the coaches that my ankle is at 100%. So there's no issue with him going into camp at what he says is full go. That is good news for him in terms of his draft profile. He has, and for someone who doesn't have the best 10-yard split, I don't really understand this. Watch him on tape. He is so good off the ball. So consistent and so fast. Elite first step. Multiple people that I have read reports for as well for him say that he has an elite first step. His hand usage, much like Mason Reiger, is exceptionally good. His hand fighting really kind of sets him apart. He's got good bend at DT. Like he's moving as fast sideways as he does forwards, which is just a weird trait, but it is what it is. Because he's undersized, because of all this stuff I'm talking about, and he's an early 7th round pick guy, low risk, potential high reward kind of guy, and very much fits the bill of what the Lions maybe want as a kind of backup defensive tackle who needs to be like a penetrating 3-tech. I absolutely see it in this guy. So, versus the run, despite the small frame, performs adequately against the run, showing off both 1 and 2 gap versatility. He's able to hold the point of attack and not get pushed backwards, but he's able to penetrate through a gap if he sees it and goes to meet running backs when he is in 2 gapping technique and he's holding the point of attack. When he wants to release, his wrestler traits come out of him. He's a former high school wrestler. You can see the way he out-leverages people. It's like what we've seen before in people like Malcolm Rodriguez and all those sorts of guys. It jumps off the tape how good he is with that. If he comes up against a monster, like a 350-pound tackle or a 330-pound guard or something like that, I have concerns of Gap getting pushed off the ball, but he's got a really good anchor for someone of his frame, and he's got a low center of gravity because of it, and he's a strong guy. So his problem is that he's been going up against low opposition for the majority of his career, and then when he took the step up, the majority of people he went up against were at the low end of the FBS level, or not even that. So testing him against NFL caliber opposition is going to be the really interesting thing here. Because of his weight and his strength and his elite first step, I do think that he could reliably hold up as a 4-3 big end as well, much in the same way that we're talking about Levi getting pushed out to the big end position. So I see him as a penetrating 3-tech. He could very well play 4-3 big end for us. Against the pass, this is where he really excels. That low center of gravity I talked about, that really interesting bend technique where he kind of just makes himself very, very skinny and can kind of just, the torque is amazing. He's got really surprising speed, like you just don't expect him to move the way he does. Like I said about the hand fighting, the timing of his punch and the way he just swipes puts people at a disadvantage instantly. He does have some counters when he loses initially, including a spin move, but it is like watching a dump truck turn. Like, it's a very, very laboured spin move. I saw it a couple of times and I'm like, well, it did the job, but you had to go backwards to go forwards. It's not really a spin move. It's like a 3-point turn. But he tries, and I love that. If the ankle is genuinely okay, and I worry about that because his cornering is so good, if the ankle isn't okay, that's going to be interesting. And he didn't do the 3-cone, which is a little bit of a worry. So if I'm going to ignore that in the evaluation because I'm going to assume that it's going to be okay. This is someone who's an early 7 on the consensus. I have him as a low 5. You are taking a significant risk. He hasn't been tested against NFL opposition. But the way he plays the game, I see a low floor. Like, I think you'll be able to carry him at the bottom of your depth chart for a long part of his career because what he does well, he does very well. In that way, we might be talking about him in the same way that we talk about Wingo now, the sort of like, he's probably going to be a bubble prospect every single time camp rolls around. But you know what? I've seen more from this guy in a few games than I have seen from Wingo, to be frank. And, you know, he didn't quit on his team. when he got injured, and he hadn't been at Texas Tech before this season, but he stuck around. He was a character. He was a leader in that room, and the way he's kind of risen up from the ranks of D2 to D1, and then into taking another leap. He's ambitious. He's gotten better every year. I'm a believer. I choose to believe in these kids, and there's something about Skylar that I really, really like. Have either of you watched any of him?
Ash, do you want to go?
I haven't watched any of them, but from everything I'm hearing, and you guys know more than most, he sounds like the kind of guy that Prospect X would absolutely love as well. The athletic thing, like all the stuff where he's come up from D2, transition from linebacker, the injury. I would not be surprised if in a couple of weeks that Prospects comes out and it's him. And we all know what our market does. And if we do draft him in the 7th, we do need that kind of penetrating free tech, especially if Levi's going to kick out to big end. Because, we've got Tyleek, we've got Chris Smith, we've got Wingo. We really do not have that kind of pass rushing free tech. Well, other than Aleem, obviously. But behind Aleem, there's nothing. And we need to spell Aleem because, you can't have him playing 89% of the snaps. So if he's there and he's our pick later in the draft, and that's all he is, that kind of DT4 who does does the pass rushing stuff and maybe plays the special teams like the field goal block unit. Not at all a disappointment for a late day 3 guy.
So I was writing about Scott Howard this morning. For
what timing?
I know, right? And everything you said, I concur with to the utmost degree. You can tell he's a former linebacker. There's times when he's playing the run, he almost takes a step back to shed the block, probably because he lacks a bit of length, so he can't naturally shed as you would like a big nose tackle. But then he's almost like scraping across the back of the defensive line, and then his pursuit, he's got a non-stop motor, and even at 290, whatever it is, 295 now, he can move. Boy can move. The one pushback I'll say is that from what you said, Matt, was his hand usage. His hands are fast. I've got personally got his hands are fast and aggressive, but they can be inaccurate and they lack a bit of pop. They lack a bit of strength at the point of contact. But my last line here I've got on him is when it all clicks, he looks dominant. And I'm even higher than you, mate. I've got a late 5th. No, late 4th. Can't even work out my own system.
That's significantly higher than me. I love it. I misstated his weight, by the way. 280, not 290. He's 10 pounds even lighter than that. Makes the strength even more impressive, to be frank. I love the kid. I'd love to take a flyer on him. There's lots of these guys in this draft where the quality is on tape, but it's either against the wrong level of opposition or there's an injury or something like that. And which one do you take the chance on is going to be a really big thing. I failed to mention, by the way, something which might come of interest to many people with Skylar Gill-Howard to Lions fans, which is in this most recent season, he had a 55-yard pick six.
I saw that. He can move. And I'll say this as well. Like, those 5 games he played, if you asked anyone who was playing better out of him and Lee Hunter, who's now a top 50 pick, they would say Skylar Gill-Howard every time. He was clearly outplaying Lee Hunter for me. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes and what he's like at the NFL.
Absolutely.
And to think I thought you were setting me up there. He was going to say he's got like 5 carries in his college career or something. You were setting me up to be happy then. You broke my heart.
You Ash, you wait till my DT thing comes out, mate. Hopefully tomorrow or the day after. You just say, I found a DT with like a 29 yards per carry average. So
yes.
And you've all heard of it, but I'll leave that there.
What a tease.
I know.
Right. Paul, let's go for your third guy.
Okay, we are going from a former linebacker to a current linebacker. in the shape of BYU's Jack Kelly, another one that I know Ant loves. He is 6 foot, just over 6'1" and 246. That was verified at the Senior Bowl. And another one I just love, and I can't believe people aren't higher on talking more about. So he played 2 years at Weber State before transferring to BYU. And in his 2 years at BYU, he has got 106 combined tackles, 23.5 tackles for loss, 15 of those were sacks. Yeah, yes, please. So what do I like about him? First of all, he's a good athlete. He just, even though he's only 6'1" and 246, he just looks big. Although the size I can believe, but he just looks rocked up. He looks solid. He looks how I want to look. If I'm being honest with you. And if you want to Google him, he's also a very good-looking man. So maybe this is all just out of jealousy. Maybe I think if I big him up, I'll become him. But no, so he's a good athlete. His blitzing is like incredible. He's just so quick. He's standing at off-ball linebacker 1 minute, and then what feels like half a second later, he's in the quarterback's lap or in the running back's lap. He just, once he sees the lane, he just goes, and he just like he teleports at times. So against the run, I think he can stack pretty well. So he's slightly undersized, so he lacks a bit of length, but he can stack those blocks on the edge pretty well. He tapes on like pulling blockers really well, especially if they're tight ends. But I've seen him do it to tackles and guards as well. He doesn't really go backwards because he is so rocked up. In coverage, he's not natural in coverage. I can tell because he was an edge rusher at Weber State. Like in the transfer portal, he was listed as an edge rusher. So you can tell that coverage isn't his forte, but he does flash some really good instincts, and he's got really good movement ability to change direction at the back of his drop. So I think there's more to come there. So for us, I think he's perfect for our Sam role. What Derek Barnes played last year. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but right now I'd rather have him there than Derek Barnes. Is that being a bit reactionary to Derek Barnes' poor season? Yeah, probably. But I'll stand by it. I don't mind. You can bring the receipts. He's perfect for that role. He can get after the quarterback. He can do a little bit in coverage, and he's good against the run. I don't think there's anything not to like about him in that role. Now, he's a little bit role specific. Like, you're not going to want to play him at our will. You're not going to want to play him at Mike necessarily. So he's quite specific in that sort of Sam on the ball linebacker role. So because of that, because of being a bit pigeonholed, I'm a little bit lower on him because I like grading my linebackers on the same level. So I have a mid 4th round pick on him. Consensually, I've got to stop saying that word for it. I can't say it. On consensus, he is 189. So that is 5th round?
Yeah,
4th round?
late 5th.
5th round. So I'm a little bit higher on him. But that's Jack Kelly out of BYU.
Ash?
I've heard stuff about him, and depending on which mock draft sim you're on, some do have him listed as an edge, which is interesting. Now I know why. But listening to you talk about him and the tiny bits I've heard about him, he's either a Sam for us or he's going to go to someone like the Bucks. And you know the role that Devin White had in the Bucks defense when he was on there, where you had him and Levante David. And Levante David was more your Alexander Loney kind of inside linebacker. Kelly would fit that role to a T, kind of being a blitzer, run defender, don't trust him too much in coverage. So there you go. If we don't get him, Tampa Bay or someone that runs that similar kind of system will snap him up, I think, and he'll look absolutely amazing for them. But as you say, it's either replacing Barnes or he's basically being on the bench right now because what we need at our linebacker is coverage. But at the same time, if we take him and move our scheme because we want to go more nickel, we have that role for him, also will not be surprised.
I can see the Vikings liking him as well. Like
Oh, yeah,
Ivan
true,
Pace
yeah.
type of role. That
Yeah.
worries me.
I mean, here was me thinking that Ben Johnson would like him as a sort of guy that they don't currently have, potentially. You know, because he was a part of a team that really championed Derek Barnes.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
True.
Oh, don't.
They've brought back Jack Sanborn, I think. So
Yeah, same player, Ben. Don't need him.
Right, Ash, time for your final guy.
yeah, I'm sticking with the safeties because we all know what I'm like with them. This time it's someone that actually I grew to love more watching him than say Kilgore, and this is the Kansas State University safety VJ Payne. He's 6'3", 206 pounds, 22-year-old senior, so you're older than Kilgore. 9.74 RAS, and he spent all of his years at Kansas State, which is good. This past season, he had a 73.3 defensive grade, 70.5 run defense, 70.5 tackling, 51.3 pass rushing, 74.1 coverage. He had 54 solo tackles, 13 assisted, 8 missed, so 10.7 miss rate, 16 run stops, 1 forced fumble. In coverage, he only gave up 47% of his targets for catches, 17 of 36, 458 yards, 9.3 yards of reception, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 PBs, 57.4 passer rating given up. In the blitzing game, 1 hurry and 2 hits. He also conceded 2 penalties. All of those came on 722 defensive snaps, 339 in run defense, 374 in coverage, and 9 as a pass rusher. 386 of those were in the box. 176 were as free safety, 123 as a slot, 29 on the defensive line, all outside the tackle, and 8 outside corner. He also played 64 snaps on special teams, 54 as field goal block unit, and 10 on the punt return unit for a 61.5 special teams grade. No tackles, no penalties. It's all very clean there. And the game I watched for him is one I've watched before, but I went back and watched it specifically for him on Caddies, and that is week 0 this past season in Ireland versus Iowa State. He had a 64.9 PFF grade in that game, 56.7 run defense, 45.1 tackle, and 68.4 coverage grade. He played 67 snaps in that game, 35 in run defense, 32 in coverage. He had 5 tackles or further assisted tackle, 2 missed, 2 run stops, and he only gave up 1 catch on 4 targets for 4 yards. He also did concede a penalty. Starting with that penalty, it was kind of needless. So he was covering sort of the slot deep, so about 10 yards off against the tight end. The tight ends were on a good corner route, and Payne just decides to hook him at the break point of the route. Very needless. Pushed Iowa State up, so they were pretty much on the goal line by that point because it was like a spot of the foul plus half the distance. Literally the next play, that first goal line set, pretty much perfect edge contained from him as a safety. He stays on the outside, just about wraps up the running back to prevent a touchdown. Luckily, by the actual Iowa State do not convert it into a touchdown, which is good. But it's nice to sort of see him have that goldfish mentality of, oops, I've just done a bad, to suddenly bounce back and have an excellent play for him. He had some really good zone processing. So there was one time where he moves down to cover a wide receiver who's coming across the formation, stays with him, but then he sees a tight end leaking out in a sort of block and release, very much like the Brock Wright play, except for outwards rather than across the formation. Sees it, passes his guy off, crashes down. Wasn't even targeted because he sort of wraps up that route. But quite a lot of it, despite what I said earlier in terms of his overall snap count in the season, quite a lot of the snaps he did take in the Ireland game were in single high in the kind of cover 3, cover 6 kind of looks, which I really liked. And he did have really good zone feel in those, and when he was underneath as a strong safety in the box as well. So my comparison for him, got 2, both of whom are currently on the roster, one of whom is the guy we signed this week in Chuck Clark, and the other guy is Thomas Harper, where they can fill in at both safety spots, but perhaps is more comfortable at free safety, where they've got that sort of extra leeway of 5-10 yards to read and react and then crash down on stuff rather than having to do it instantly. He did that a lot in that Ireland game. As I say, during the season, they moved him down into the box more, but as that kind of first guy off the bench, you could do a lot worse. And I think a lot of teams are going to be happy if they do, whichever team gets him and they draft him and they have him as that third safety, if there's an injury or need a spot start somewhere, he could fill in that. You could do a lot worse. So he's currently the 10th ranked safety and 132nd overall prospect to mock draft database, which puts him as a low fourth rounder. I have him ranked around higher than that as a mid to late third rounder, where he doesn't really have a superpower or standout feature to hang his hat on, but you're going to get at least a solid 6 out of 10 out of him in most aspects of the game, perhaps slightly higher in terms of the zone coverage and sort of your read and react kind of style coverage stuff. But as I say, as a do-it-all safety, first guy off the bench, fill in, do some special teams for you as well. I would not be unhappy if we take the offensive tackle on edge in the top 2 rounds and then either trade up into the third or using one of the picks we've got in the 4th round, we take Payne and he just fills in for us as that nice bench guy. I would not be unhappy at all.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Ash. Like, he's got good size, good speed. I like his instincts in zone. I really like the way he flip his hips and run with the deep routes. Not many safeties have got hips like that. I think people are a bit low on him with the 4th. I think I've got a high 4th on him. Just because I have doubts about his run defense, not because anything I've seen on tape, just because he had one of the best run defending linebackers in front of him in my guy Austin Romaine. Talk about him next year. So I'm not sure how much he was actually asked to do in run defense, but I'm being very, very nitpicky. Like, he didn't show me anything to worry me on tape. Yeah, I agree with what you said.
I have nothing to add, so instead of adding some bluster, I'm going to move on to my last guy. Bear with me while I type out his double-barreled name. And this is going to be another interesting one for everyone out there, because this is one of the fastest risers, I think, in this draft process. Indeed, I looked at him 2 days ago, and he's risen 10 more places. So he is getting a lot of love. This is the linebacker Caleb Elam's-Orr from TCU, if I can spell his name. That would be amazing. He is another redshirt senior. He is 22 years old, will turn 23 just before the season starts. 84.4 PFF grade in this most recent season. He is 6'2" flat with a 234-pound frame. He is super explosive, 40-inch vert, 10'4" broad. Runs off 1.59 10-yard split, a 4.47 40-yard dash, and is good agility scores without jumping off the page. 4.41 shuttle, 7.13 cone. He is, I think, potentially a 3-position linebacker. Comes downhill often against the run, is a frequent blitzer, sometimes plays on the ball, 117 snaps versus 717 in the box. So it's something I think that he's underutilized in doing that. So we'll talk about more on that in just a second. He's played 3 years at Cal, playing 21 games. He had 92 tackles, 3.5 TFLs, a sack, an interception, 5 passes defended, a fumble recovery, and a forced fumble. And then he moved up to TCU for the final 2 years of his career, playing in 26 games. And he had 184 tackles in 2 seasons, 15.5 TFLs, 6 sacks, and 2 passes defended. He's mock draft database 123rd player overall now, after being at 133 just 2 days ago. And he was a very, very solid day 3 guy until very recently. I've seen him going up as high as the mid-second round in some mocks now, so ascending quickly. Watched a couple of games, but most in depth, the loss at Arizona State 27-24 in a very entertaining game, week 5 PFF grade of 77 in that game with 5 pressures, 2 sacks, 9 tackles, and a pass defended. He played a lot of his significantly impactful reps at the Leo spot, but also played some significant impactful reps at Mike and Will. So kind of showing off that 3-position versatility that I think he probably will translate to in the pros as well. He was in the 220s, as I say, in early March. So it's only taking a month to rise 100 places, and I expect that to continue. He's rising for a couple of reasons. One, he's just a solid all-around player. There's not a lot to dislike on film. He's become a better player every single year that he's been a starter. So that ascending, he doesn't have like some really good tape historically to kind of rely on. You know, his final year at Cal, 59.4 PFF grade before 75.7, 84.4 in the most recent seasons at TCU. So when you're a riser, sometimes you're just kind of coming in under the radar. He's a solid run defender, good instincts, good in coverage, can be a little handsy, an excellent blitzer. I think he's going to be a better pro than college player. I think if I had to pigeonhole him into just one of those positions, I think will be that spot, but it can maybe blitz a bit more than that. If you played him at Sam, I think he'd be very, very good, but I think that because he's quite good against the run and okay in coverage and he can blitz, that Will is just going to kind of be that spot where he plays. Like I said, he's taken some mic reps too, but anyway, in particular, run defense, good at reading, diagnosing plays. There's some reps on tape where he does take the wrong gap, but more often than not, he's in the right place at the right time. Little bit of reading your keys, which he just needs to get a little bit better at, but it's not a massive concern of mine. He's an excellent tackler when he's in the right position, and I mean his tackling form is fantastic. His missed tackle rate versus some of the guys that we've looked at, I think I had it up a minute ago and I don't have it now. He also plays special teams. I should mention that. He has played all phases of special teams through his career. So that's going to be another way that he's going to get onto some teams early. His missed tackle rate this season was 7.1% as a linebacker. Like, come on. His career, he's been 11%, 11%, 7%. So when you see some of these guys having missed tackle rates of 15, 20%, this isn't Caleb. I will say that because sometimes he doesn't read his keys very well, he's not in a position to miss a tackle, which is not that great. But, you know, it's like watching some of those edge rushers who shouldn't be in the position to make a tackle and then they miss it because they're a long way away from it. Caleb kind of doesn't have that problem. But yeah, there you go. So against the run, I didn't finish up. He can sometimes get taken out of play if he comes up against a lineman getting to the second level because he just can't physically match him. So there's several instances on tape of pulling guards just kind of having their way with him. Or sometimes, you know, if the center snaps and comes up field, he'll sometimes try and carry the block and do a two-gap technique, and that can sometimes work because he's not kind of declaring himself. But a couple of times I saw him try and guess one way and the defender can just then leverage him out of the way, which is not ideal. So when he comes up against those bigger guys, can he find a way to more consistently play that? Because he's going to have to find it. But otherwise, no concerns against the run because he's so aggressive coming downhill and he's active at looking for the ball. His tackling form's great. His run defense is pretty good overall. Coverage, he's obviously very athletic. I highlighted that before. That helps. He's got good anticipation, which allows him to mirror quite well in man. He's combative at the point of attack. Several instances where he's getting his pass defended. I actually do think he's a better man coverage linebacker than he is zone. In zone, reads the quarterback's eyes well. Almost zero ball production in college, which, you know, highlights the fact that it's not his best trait in terms of watching the quarterback's eyes. Like, he knows where he needs to be, and he does read what's happening, but whether it's just coincidence that he's never getting thrown the ball, or it's not true because he gives up, you know, catches. He plays quite soft in zone. He gives a bigger amount to his receivers, so they're very often making catches in front of him, and he's keeping stuff to low gains, but he's not stopping the catch altogether. So there's room for improvement in zone coverage. He can rely on his athleticism to recover. So take more risks is what I want to say to him. He's a bit safe in zone coverage. He's got a great motor. Frequently makes tackles when the first man misses and he's there to clean up. He'll cut off the backside. He never gives up on a play. There's plenty of sideline-to-sideline stuff that he's shown where he's on the right-hand side as the mic and the wheel's gone downhill and then he's missed him and he's having to cut it off as a 10-yard gain rather than it being a massive explosive, and he's shown good aplomb at doing that. But where he's really exciting is as a blitzer. So in the ASU game, I think he had 2 sacks and they all come off like walking up to the line late or just being an on-the-ball guy. And some of it is that TCU just designed up some of those plays really well, so it's not all him. You know, they got they're showing that they're potentially going to bring 6 and they only bring 5, but they bring it in the direction that you're not expecting. But he's sudden and surprising in the way that he blitzes. It's not that necessarily he's this amazingly twitched up guy and he's doing it with speed. It's that instead of it being a delayed blitz, he won't go and hit you in the first heartbeat of it, so a tackle is going to kind of read that and then maybe move on. He delays his rush sometimes just a touch, so that it isn't really a delayed blitz and he's getting there late, but just enough to let an offensive lineman who's not quite on it just switch off for a second, and then he goes. It's really, really nice to watch. And because he's explosive as he is, just waiting that half a step doesn't really lose him anything. Quite often, like I said, he's on the ball as a 3-4 outside linebacker. I kind of think it rarely worked because when he's on the ball and he's up close to the line and he actually does rush, he's going up against either a tight end who's mostly bigger than him or he's running into a tackle. And he's just not disengaging from those people. Like, it doesn't make sense. So coming downhill as someone who's lined up as a Will or as a Mike, and kind of just approaching the line slowly, not being accounted for by one of those guys, and then going, I think, is the way where he's going to really show something. And in that way, the way that I want Derek Barnes to play actually kind of comes to it, because Barnes, I think, as a kind of on-ball guy, has kind of failed for the Lions. He needs to be kind of primarily, for me, a linebacker who blitzes rather than an on-the-ball guy who drops. I think that Caleb Elam-Zaore is exactly that sort of guy. Overall, I think he's going to be a backup to start his NFL career, and the fact that he does all 5 phases of special teams, or has done in his career, means that he's got a way to the roster day one. I think he could start day one if you really wanted him to, and he'd just be a low-level starter, but the way that he plays, he's going to make some impact plays. I just worry about that completion rate in zone coverage, and in that way, maybe not such a problem for the Lions playing so much man coverage. He's a Will, I think, but he can take reps at Sam and Mike, as I've mentioned. I've got a high 3 on him at the moment. I think he can go in that 75 to 85 sort of range, which would put him out of reach for the Lions as we stand. But I'd be so bloody excited if we can take Caleb Elams or Poole. Have you watched him?
I have. I don't disagree with anything you said. As you said, there are some times he does get in the wrong gap because he either misdiagnoses or he just guesses or whatever. He's going to get bullied in like duo run games. That is a concern. That's why I don't think he's a Mike. I don't think he's a Sam. Yes, he can spot start there, but for me, he's going to be a Will. He's going to be purely off the ball coverage sort of linebacker. And although I agree, I think he's better in man coverage. I really like the depth he gets when his zone drops. I watched a game against BYU, and on multiple occasions I could see him just take away like crossing routes and big routes, those sort of over the middle crossing routes, and because he just gets such good depth quickly, it really confused the BYU freshman phenomenon at quarterback. But yeah, I am lower on him in general. I've got what did you say? You had a high 3?
High 3, yeah.
I've got a late 4. It's not a million miles apart. I just have doubts over his run defense. And to be honest with you, that's my only doubt about him, and I value that very highly.
Ash, have you watched any of him at all?
Unfortunately not, so we're completely C2 guys. He was on my radar to watch because I know some places have been linking with him. I think when he had his pro day or something, we were mentioned to be interested. So he definitely picks up there. And obviously we do need a Will, so if he's a Will, then perfect. But yeah, I haven't watched him just yet. Might not have to now that you guys have both watched him seemingly. Takes a bit off my plate. But yeah, I have seen him around that sort of 4th round range. So I was hoping that, yeah, if he's there, maybe we take him with our pick or the Monty pick. But if not, obviously there's other guys, Jalen Tucker, that I like as well. So
right, we've got Ant coming in the building, but to give him a soft landing, we've got a few questions to field from the crowd here. And one I think is just an interesting one from the Tampa Bay Lions fan club, who asks, when we look back at this draft in 10 years' time, who will we say has been the best player? Which I think is a super interesting question that I never really think about too much, and maybe it's the most important question of all. So, Paul, I don't know if anyone instantly jumps out to you as someone that you just love, who you know is going to be a good pro, maybe?
Yeah, it's my highest rated player in this class, and that's Sonny Styles.
Valid.
I adore Sonny Styles. I don't see how he's not a good pro, and he's got the athletic ability to be elite. I don't see how how he's not great.
Ash?
See, 'cause I don't want to do the cop out. It depends where they go. So I'm trying to think of someone who can maybe supersede wherever he goes. Styles is a good one. Caleb Downs, maybe. Unless a team obviously tries to back him at free safety, but someone plays him as that like buzz strong safety, like the kind of Imamori branch role. He's going to be so good at it, and I know he's falling because of the injury stuff, but he seems like God, who like Malachi Starks last year, where he's going to fall to a team that's just going to use him so well, like Baltimore, like Philly, and we're going to look back here in 10 years' time, like how the hell did we let them get here?
I've got two answers, and one is me leaning into me being me, and one's a swing for the fences, and one's a real swing for the fences. One's Monroe Freeland, who is a swing for the fences, but I firmly believe that he's going to work it out in the first couple of years of his career. And then we're going to be talking about the highest paid left tackle in the NFL out of his rookie deal. Like, I just think that's his trajectory. And we'll look back on it and go, how did we miss it? And I think people are not missing it quite as much. DLP, Riz's guest, said he was the number 2 player in the class, which made me very, very happy when I was as high on him as I was. So that's my number 1 answer. My number 2 answer, just for a laugh, is Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. Because why the fuck not? Like, absolute hero. And if you think about best player in the class, what jumps out to me, or best player after 10 years from now, are the kind of unfancied positions when you talk about this sort of thing. So yeah, tackle, edge, quarterback, whatever. But, I mean, if you look at it, you got Vega, Ioane, who's probably regarded as maybe the highest floor guy in the class and the best interior offensive lineman in the class by far. Tight end's just one of those kind of slightly unsexy positions still. And I have a huge amount of faith that he'll translate into maybe being a tight end or maybe even a wide receiver, as we've been hearing about today, that some people were evaluating him as a wide receiver. So, and as a soft landing for you coming in, and hello, by the way, who do you think is going to be the best player in the class when we look back at it 10 years on?
Firstly, hello everyone. Hope everyone is good. Hope you can hear me all right. I don't know. It's very difficult with this class because there's not particularly a lot of blue chip in it. There's not many very obvious answers there. I mean, I'm gonna go hand on heart, and it's gonna be because I just don't want this guy anywhere near the NFC North on either lines. I think Lee Hunter's going to be the one out of this. I think he's going to be an absolutely dominant tackle in the NFL when he gets here. There's just something about him that screams future absolute superstar. So he's one who sticks out in that regard.
Fair. Right. Just before we go on to some of your guys, and we've profiled. In fact, Paul, you've still got one more to go. Sorry, I overlooked that. So my mistake.
I have. I'm happy for obviously Ant to go if he wants to.
Sure.
If he's got one ready to go.
But I mean, for Ant, I just want to comment on the players that we've profiled so far because I'm sure you've been travelling here and maybe not seen it. So if you've got any thoughts on any of these guys that are potentially just like good little tidbits, that'd be awesome. Say tidbits, don't you, in the States? But anyway, which one's English and which one's us? Is it tidbits or tidbits?
Tidbits is the one I know, so that's probably the English one.
Okay. So Ash had Jelon Kilgore from South Carolina and VJ Payne from Kansas State. I've had Bryce Lance from NDSU, Mason Riger from Wisconsin, Kyler Gill Howard from Texas Tech, or Caleb Elam's Orr from TCU. And Paul so far has had for Betrim Waywoo from Oklahoma, Keyshawn James Newby from New Mexico, and Jack Kelly from BYU. Anyone you just want to show some love to out of those guys?
Oh, I love Mwaywu to bits. That's a love affair that goes back years, that one is. And I hope wherever he lands, it lands somewhere good and he's the stud we all know he can be. So yeah, I love some Mwaywu. There's got some good players in there. I'm shocked Kyle's not in this because I didn't do anything about Kyle, but you know, it is what I thought someone's gonna take it, so I'll leave it for them, but
Shut up, cow!
I was going to,
God
but
damn it.
at this point, I thought everyone would just know about Carl Lewis, so I was like,
Well, that's what I've done today. It's like people hear me rabbit on all year on the coach about the guys I like a lot. So I thought I've got to kind of do guys that I like that I don't really talk about. So I kind of ignored all the obvious ones. But
yeah, I tried to go for like day 3 sleeper guys.
yeah.
Otherwise I'd be here talking for an hour and a half about Dylan Feeneman.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know it already.
Actually, Halsey's a shout then for one of the best players from this class because I've got the video on Halsey. I love Halsey, so you know that's a shout as well from me. For who could be best?
One more question from the chat before we go on to your first guy. Bob O'Lan has just said, what first round projected tackles are actually left tackles aren't most or all right tackles? The majority of them are right tackles, I believe, in the class. But actually, in the first round, there's a bit of a more even split, I think, isn't there? So Marigo's right, Freeling's left, Farno's left.
Right,
Farno's right.
Farno's
Sorry,
right.
Proctor's at the moment on the left.
On the left, but yeah.
He
he's
kick
probably a
inside or
left,
could be a right tackle, or he could be a
Yeah.
wide receiver, who knows. Caleb Lomu's a left, Blake Miller's a right, Ian Atchaw's a right.
Right, yeah.
And that's all of like the fringe first round guys. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 right tackles and 2 left out of those that we've just said, I think.
Yeah, I will say that I think Farno can play left. He played there his freshman year. And I think he's got the movement skills to do it as well. He's very light on his feet, which is what most teams like at left tackle. So I think he generally has either side's flexibility.
And that's the thing, because I was commenting on someone's mock draft about this earlier, because they said, oh yeah, the Lions are behind, they have to get a left tackle. I was like, no, well, no. Haven't you heard that Pede's moving? But then I remembered he's a Packers fan, so of course he doesn't care. But then I remembered Decker in college was a right tackle. So we have all this stuff about, oh yeah, there could be a left tackle, right tackle. I think teams don't care. They look more for the archetype than where they played in college. So that's why, like Proctor, I know he's played left tackle at Alabama. He's a right tackle for me.
Agreed, yeah. I've heard people saying that Miller can play left as well, but I personally don't see that. But...
Yeah, I think he's a right tackle only, Miller, for sure. Actually, I did promise that Grandizer could ask a question, because even though I don't think he's asked one before today, he's complained about not getting answered already. So, who are your least favourite prospects that you'd be pretty gutted if the Lions realistically drafted? And before you say it, I know Caden Proctor. Who else?
Are we talking just first round?
No,
or
whatever you like. Who do you not like? Who is in a draftable position?
Akeem Messador?
Yeah.
For a start, in 10 years' time, alluding to the earlier question, in 10 years' time, he'll be drawing his pension. Right. Aside from that, I don't think he's that good. I don't see what everyone else sees, like this top end pass rusher. Like he's got quick hands, but all of his wins, the majority of his wins are inside moves, which is great. Like it's great to have that in your arsenal. But you're not going to be put on an island in the NFL and just told to go and rush one-on-one via tackle, especially not in Detroit, because that's Aiden's job. If that situation becomes available, and he just plays with no power. He's got no power to his game. And for a player who is 5, 6 years older than some of his competition, I'm just not buying it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time coming to the idea of a player I kind of really don't like. I like Messador, but I don't like him in the first round. I think he's firmly in play at 50. And I think the NFL's going to regard him as a mid-second round pick. And I think everyone after Thursday is going to be looking at Friday going, he's at the top of everyone's board. Why is he falling? And it's like, because he's an oft injured old player. Like, he's got something. He definitely has something, but he lacks length. He's not a great athlete. He's old and he's injured. Like, there's a lot of reasons not to like him, but I do just think the way that he wins is something which can translate personally, but it's just pigeonholes him a bit, and I don't know how much there is more to learn for him. So I don't want to be the one to draft him, but I don't hate him.
See,
yeah. So like at 50, I could probably live with it, but I've seen far too much of him getting mocked at 17.
No chance. He's not going top 20. There's no way.
He should do. And I hate to just steal the spotlight on this question, but I've got another rant I need to get off my chest.
Go for it.
Do it.
Isaiah fucking World. Right. I know he's falling right off because of his injury, but having watched him all season, right, he's absolutely fine until you ask him to block a defensive end. And then you're in trouble. If you like your quarterback, we don't want Isaiah World. And that's coming from an Oregon fan.
And see, sorry, Ash.
I'm probably going to steal one of Ant's here. We've mentioned him a couple of times already in this show. Jennings Dunker, can we not, please? I can't believe some people have Tiernan rated way below him.
And anyone for you that pops out as someone that you really don't want on the Lions?
Day one, I don't want Jermud McCoy because we're talking about corners that because he's a layabout who fucked his own team over and didn't want to play even though he was healthy, and he's not tested for anyone but his team because he's a selfish. So I don't want anything to do with him on day one. Dunker would have been my day 2-1 because he's just completely overrated. Day 3, probably be looking at someone from Michigan. Because all their prospects are overrated in Rolder.
Linebacker, Rolder.
Yeah, Rolder or Barham. If Barham's a day 3-1 as well, they're just not that good. It's just because they're from Michigan that they get love, but there's nothing to them. So yeah, Rolder would probably be the one on day 3 I'd stay miles away from as well.
I think the only Michigan player I want this year is Bredesen, the fullback.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even want the tight
end. Hang on. Zavada, but we've got Bates, but I'd take Zavada over one of their in-skill players.
Marlon Klein's fine, Matt. You mentioned tight end. He's fine, but if I have to choose one, it'd be Bredesen.
In terms of day 3 guys, Le'Veon Moss is someone that I really don't want because I don't see him getting out of his rookie deal. He's fine, but there's nothing special about him, and his vision's poor. He's overvalued at 215 for me, where he is on Mock Draft Database. There's a few others down here in day 3, but it's just harsh because it's like I just don't believe he's a football player. So yeah, I won't highlight them because that feels a bit harsh. I've gone through Mock Draft Database for like day 1 and 2, and I don't see anyone massively that I'm like super down on that I really, really dislike. Keldrick Falk would be in this discussion for me because I just don't see it. Like, oh yeah, no, he compares really well to Eric Armstead, and it's like, yeah, with none of the production and all of the projection. Okay, fine, sure. If you want to have that guy be 20 years old and go, I trust he gets there. But on the flip side, from giving like the 25-year-olds the downgrade because there's nothing more to learn and he's an old prospect, having to project all of this out and just say, I trust he'll get there is just as flawed to me. Give me the 23-year-old prospect who's had some production and has a little bit of runway left. These 20-year-olds, it's fine. I applaud him for taking the leap and wanting to get up to the pros as quickly as possible, and he's going to go first round, and that's great, but not for me, please.
Yeah, as Ant has said many times in this podcast, like, show me anyone that this organisation recently has proven they can develop. I can't. Like, the project type players, obviously the first rounders they get better normally, but the traits based players, which is what Falk is, we haven't developed.
Yeah, the only one that springs to mind is Kirby, and that's just because we developed his run defense and tackling. Like, he had the ball production and that, but we've actually turned him into a good all-round safety. That's the only one that springs to mind. Everyone else, has either been as they are out the package, as it says on the tin, or yeah, we've tried to develop them and it's not worked.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, coming out of college, his run defense was dreadful.
Woeful.
Right, and have you got a guy you got ready to tee up for us?
I do, yes. Right, bear with me one moment. So as I say, most people by now know who I really, really like in this draft, but I've gone into the day three slash UDFA categories for my ones here. I'm giving love to guys who aren't getting love, who should be getting love. First off the bat, and I have to thank Ryan for this one 2 years ago for putting me onto this. I've got Omar Igbedian. So we've got the offensive guard from the Baylor Bears. He is 6'3", 310 pounds. He's from Katy, Texas. Came out in 2020, ranked number 2,377 coming out of high school. Spent a year at the US military prep school as an Army Black Knight commit before transferring to Montana State for 2 years. Then he transferred to Baylor for a further 2 years. He is basically nearly 4 years as a starter. He's played 49 games total, 2,500 snaps at right guard. He's got about 100 at left guard as well. He played a playoff game against ND State there a couple of years ago. But as a freshman for the Bobcats, him and you may remember right tackle Marcus Vare from a couple of years ago, one of the most formidable pairings in the country. Guard tackle wise, as Montana State fronted the second best rushing attack in the nation. It was absolutely devastating that year. And then as a sophomore, it's where he truly started to show his dominant traits. He was the highest graded guard in the entire FCS. He garnered all Big South honors. He was an FCS All-American. He was a Walter Camp All-American as well, and piggyback that into a move from the FCS right up to the Power 4, where he went to Baylor, started every game as a transfer for Baylor in 24, and this was on an offensive line that ranked third in the Power 4 for O-line efficiency. They blocked for the team that was 20th in total offense. They were 19th in scoring offense. They surrendered the fourth least tackles for loss in the country and the 36th least sacks in the FBS as well. He was a second team All Big 12 guy. Then as a senior, he landed the first team All Big 12 honor, again blocking for what was the third best passing offense in the nation last year with Sawyer Robertson at their helm. They registered the fifth highest, or he registered the fifth highest run blocking grade individually amongst starting Power 4 guards. In short, he's been dominant wherever he's been since he started in Bozeman all those years ago. And the thing we like about his game, he's durable. He has missed just 2 games in his entire career due to injury. That was in the season just gone. They were 2 separate minor injuries, but he's built like a chunk of iron. He is as durable as they get on the offensive line. We also have other things that I like to tick off on my list. The adjustment to competition, dominated at the FCS level and then seamlessly transitioned into Power 4 football. Always bodes well for when you're moving up to the NFL to show that you can take that big leap from where you were. And the Big 12 is not easy when it comes to offensive linemen. He's very well-rounded, so also what you look at with these guys is the systems they play in as they come through college. He's had to play in 2 very different systems. The Bobcats like to run over you. The Bears love to air it out. So you've played on one really run-heavy side, and then you've gone into more of a pass-heavy offense where you've had to develop your pass protection. So all-rounded as a prospect, you're pretty good because you've done both. You're not just good at one, but it's the run blocking where he really stands out. He is as vicious and dominant as a run blocker you will find, and that is built on his sheer strength and his core. So he benched 31 reps at his pro day. That would have ranked second at the combine amongst offensive linemen if he'd gotten an invite, which he didn't. But yeah, he absolutely knocked the socks off his testing and all the strength work at his pro day. Put simply, if he wants to move you, he's going to move you with or without your permission in the run game. He's just absolutely as dominant as they get. And then you watch him as a pass blocker as well, and he is fundamentally very sound at what he does. He's coughed up just 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits over 4 seasons. That's over 1,300 pass protection snaps, a lot in the last 2 years with the Bears. And again, it's the power and strength he has. It forms a very formidable base that allows him to anchor and dominate some of these bigger, dirtier tackles in the Big 12, guys like Dominique Orange, Don Corleone, Lee Hunter, AJ Holmes, who's one of the best defensive tackles going back into college next year. He's played against all these guys, and he's fared well against a lot of them because his physique and the strength just allows him to overwhelm his opposition, whether it be pushing forward against the run or dropping back against the pass. Only thing is, you're going to need a little bit of technical work with him. Coming up to the NFL, it's not exactly the most technical league, the Big 12, when it comes to their interior pass rushers. And coming up to the NFL, it's going to be a big sort of discrepancy with the talent that he's coming up against. But overall, he's in a very good spot, and it's just sort of edges that need taking off and a little bit of refinement to the game. But first and foremost, he's just dominant when it comes to the run. Team's going to love that instantly. And then you come to the player himself, and this guy's been a perennial underdog. He was basically unrecruited out of high school. It was the COVID year, so he couldn't go and put any tape down anywhere. He couldn't take visits to campus, anything like that. Army were the only team at all who gave him sort of an offer. So we went there, had to drop down to the FCS, cut his teeth in the FCS, worked his way up to the Power 4, and just completely dominated the Power 4. And despite all his accolades, all he's done, he's getting absolutely no love in this draft process whatsoever, which has kind of been the theme for him ever since he started in football 5 years ago. And generally, guys who again and again show that they can overcome those sort of odds, they don't need the hype. They just need an opportunity, and someone hopefully will give him an opportunity. He's going to carry on proving people wrong, and kind of like Ver did, he's going to find his way onto a roster, and I think that he's going to prove to be incredibly good value for somebody. He's ranked well out of the draftable figures right now, but as a player, I just think he's absolutely tremendous, and I think like a few of these Baylor prospects, they're kind of going under the radar because the team aren't been so good. It's underachieved these last couple of years. But overall, I watch him and I think just a little bit of polish and you're there. Again, at 6'3", 310, he's a good athlete, got everything you want. He's got the personality, he's got the story, he's got all the work behind him, and more importantly, he's just an absolute run blocking menace, which the league is going to love. I don't think it'll be us if we could in some way or form get him in here to drop behind Tate. I'd absolutely love it to death. But yeah, Igbedian's one of the guys who's massively slept on. And I look forward to seeing where he goes. Hopefully, maybe with us. But yeah, that's Omar Igbedian, offensive guard out of Baylor.
Just to highlight quite how far he is out of draftable range, he's at 5'8", on Mock Draft Database. Paul, have you seen any of him?
No.
Fair. Ash?
No, but that sounds like the kind of guy I want to bring in as a UDFA. And then again, 10 years' time, we look back like, how the fuck was he a UDFA?
Yeah, I mean, there's very few guards out there who've had 4 years worth of 75 plus overall PFF grades. Like, I know it isn't a be all and end all, but as a very surface level thing, that's pretty fucking good. Yeah. Right, Paul, to not waste any time, you've got one more guy.
I have, but as I said earlier, I could go on all night with this.
Your lucky wife.
Oh, she's married to me. She's not that lucky. I've been sitting for the last 20 minutes trying to work out who I'm going to go on about for my last guy. And I've settled that I'm going to shoehorn in an Oregon Duck. Now, my favourite Duck in the draft clearly is Dylan Thieneman. But everyone knows about him. So I'm going to go for the other half of the Caucasian collision unit and talk about Bryce Betcher. So Bryce Betcher is a linebacker. He's a redshirt senior. He actually didn't have a football scholarship at Oregon as a freshman. He had a baseball scholarship. He walked on as a sophomore and a safety for Oregon. Didn't really play much in that first year, just special teams. Same again in 2023 in his junior season, a bit more, 37 combined tackles, but it was 2024 where he really jumped. He was an ever-present in the Ducks team, and then obviously a captain in 2025. Over his career, he's got 269 tackles. Bear in mind, he's only really played linebacker for 2 years. 16 TFLs and just the 4 sacks, 2 interceptions. He's an all-round linebacker. He's a jack of all trades, master of none, is how I describe him. I mentioned he was. I mentioned he was a baseball star for the Ducks. He was drafted in the 13th round to the Houston Astros in the 2024 MLB draft, so he's got that behind him. But football is where his passion lies. In fact, he was asked, I think it was at the Combine, it may have been the Senior Bowl, what about you a team's going to love? And his answer was, my love of football. If that doesn't scream Detroit Lion, I'm not quite sure what does. He won the 2024 Bellsworth Trophy, which is given to the best player in the nation who started as a walk-on. He is slightly undersized. He is just under 6'1" and 227 pounds. I don't know how much of that is him having to balance his football and baseball commitments. For the first few years, he had to cycle. He had to gain weight to play football, lose it again to play baseball. Last year, he didn't play baseball, so is 227 his limit. He looks like he can carry another 5 or 10 pounds to me, but we'll see. So his game, I love how enthusiastic he is when he takes on the run. Like, he's not the biggest guy, but he just gives his heart and soul to everything. He takes on linemen enthusiastically. This can mean at times he can fall for play action. He bites quite hard on it. He's a good blitzer. That doesn't really have the numbers to back that up, but he is a good blitzer. If you want to see a viral clip from the Senior Bowl, watch him against, I think it was Nick Singleton in the linebacker running back blitzing drills. Absolutely floored him. And in coverage, he's fine. He's no more than fine. I'm not going to sit here and say this guy should be a 2nd round pick, but I just love him. He's just all football. He was all Oregon, and he'll be all whatever team he gets drafted to. So his average consensus rank when I looked was about 142, and that's more or less where I've got him. Is around there. I think he's going to be a core special teamer. He's a great leader. I've got really no more to say on him. I love him. Oh, and by the way, the Caucasian Collision Unit T-shirts are available to buy. If we draft one of them, I'm sure as fuck I'll get one.
Valid. I know you mentioned earlier the Ivan Pace role with someone else, but damn if that does not sound like Ivan Pace 2.0.
Yeah,
in a good way, obviously.
That's a fair, similar sort of size. That's a fair comparison. Yeah, but it's just a leader, absolute leader, absolute football player. I can see us. I say us. I already love him. I can see Brad and Dan absolutely falling in love with him. He doesn't naturally fit in that wheel role per se, but as a backup linebacker, special teams guy on day 3, I think he'd be a great fit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sorry, I had to pop out for 2 seconds. Everyone had their say on Bryce? Well, okay. Ant, have you got a guy to profile?
I do. And I have a Proctor on my list.
The better Proctor.
No.
My thoughts.
No.
What?
No. No. Not that Proctor and not that other Proctor either. No, don't worry.
DeAndre.
It's not that one. Yes, it is.
DeAndre Proctor, yeah.
So my first ever Division Two guy I've gone to bat for, and I absolutely love this kid. This is a love affair that started a few months ago, and I've invested a lot of time in it since then, and it only continues to get better and better. I am talking about DeAndre Proctor, the wide receiver from the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls. He is 6'3", 210 pounds, out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. We talk about darlings. This is my Division 2 darling. Everyone knows I love my big perimeter receivers who love to go up and get down and dirty with corners and safeties and give as good as they get. And this guy is about as good as they get coming to it from this level. So he's coming off a huge season. So the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls just won their first CIAA championship. That is the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, their first title since 1969. Anyone wants a good football documentary to watch? They did one on them last year. It's called Brick by Brick. Find it on YouTube. Well worth a watch for HBCU football at that level. But he is actually involved in that. Didn't really play that much last year, but you get to see him in the show. But this is a team that is on the up and up. And they've had an absolutely fantastic season. Fronted, they've got a really good quarterback. But he's the main guy. 71 catches, 932 yards, 10 touchdowns this season. He also averages 24 yards per return as well. He does kick return work for the Golden Bulls. So again, another little notch there, but culminated one of his biggest performances of the season in that championship game. When it came to playing against Virginia Union, 7 catches, 146 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, one of them a 58-yarder. And what I love about this kid, he is literally one of the most competitive wide receivers I've ever seen when it comes to the catch point. He showed it in little bits at the HBCU Legacy Bowl, which is where he first really came to attention. Just his ability to get all over the field. He was getting loose on short routes across the field, making nice, easy completions for his quarterback. But then they were targeting him in the end zone as well. They were not afraid to throw it up in his direction. He made a beautiful over-the-shoulder catch with 2 guys hanging off him at one point. And when you go and watch his college tape, it's just full of instances like this. He's speed, possesses about 6'4", 4'5" with his speed. Not the quickest in the world, not lightning quick, but it's his body that he uses, and the get off is really good as well. It's got a really nasty first step off the line, which able to get DBs on the back foot, but it's the competitiveness that I love so much. I've not seen someone catch so many contested catches ever. You just throw it up in his direction. He knows his body. He knows his strength. He uses every pound, every inch that he has to go up and make these grabs. And he's a threat all over the field, as I've said. It's the short stuff, the intermediate stuff, the deep ball as well when you want to. You listen to him and he's just completely driven in his desire to get up to the next level and succeed. You know me, I always back HBCU prospects. The one thing that stands out is their desire to succeed. They've not taken the easy route through college. They've taken the hard route and stayed very loyal to this program as well. But in terms of trying to find a guy on this team, because we need a bigger bodied wide receiver, if you don't want to spend an early day 3 pick on someone like Malachi Fields, this is Malachi Fields who you're going to get right at the end of the draft. He's probably even further down than what Igbenian is. You're probably going to get him as an undrafted free agent, but the skill set that he possesses, it's just the talent difference between working in the Division 2 HBCUs and then coming up to the NFL. But you see more and more examples year on year of these guys coming up and fighting their way onto the rosters. You saw one at Minnesota just last year, but this kid's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the strength, he's kind of got everything you want in this, as looking for the development receiver we need in this part. He's got the return skills if we want to use him in that as well. He will work his ass off on special teams to get on this roster. I I love this kid. And the more I watch of him, the more I want to get him in there. Just you'll see his highlight plays. Just most of these DBs can't touch him, which is again, it's all about levels and everything, and he'll come up against much better in the NFL. But you've got to beat what's in front of you, and boy howdy has he beaten what is in front of him. And as I say, he's been part of a program that's not been successful for 6 decades now. And he's been one of the main sparks behind them winning their first championship in 50 odd years. So, yeah, I fell in love with him at the HBCU Legacy Bowl, and that continues to go. So he's the one I'm really, really hoping they can at least get on the practice squad, give him a shot to get on this roster, because I do think he's got something about him, and I think he's going to stick at the next level. So that is DeAndre Proctor, the wide receiver from the Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls, complete and utter arrow in the dark, beyond the depths of day 3, but I've got a good feeling about him. I've not been bad with my receivers in the past.
Beyond the depths of the UDFAs as well, he's not in the top 713 prospects on Mock Draft Database, so this is a proper dart throw. Even Cade McNamara made this list, so there we go. I'm going to presume that no one's seen any DeAndre Proctor beyond that.
Well, not more than that scene. So I've only really seen what he was in the what he put on tape in the Legacy Bowl. But yeah, he really stood out in that game. That was a great bowl game to watch, by the way. And do you know if he like turned down the offers to transfer up, or
No, he didn't play too much. Like, this has been his main year by a long shot. He worked his way into that team gradually. He's just had a sort of a breakout year. So it really is, a case of it's a flash in the pan, but it's all about having the physical attributes to do it. And he's got those, and we've seen in a good sample size now what he can do. So, but yeah, it's not like he's got 4,000 or 5,000 yards down there and he's declined bigger. Yeah, he's worked his way in slow, and this has been his big breakout year.
yeah, I wondered if that was the case, because as you say,
You won't stay down there very long if
he's got absolutely everything that Power 4 teams want in a receiver. He's fast enough, and he's massive. He's strong. He's great at the catch point, and I got all that just from the Legacy Well. So,
and it's not a bad group. It's not a bad group either. It's probably one of the best groups that's been knocked out in recent years. There's some good DBs who were up against in that. So, again,
I thought it was a really good bowl game, but I could talk about that another day. I've got like 10 or so players who stood out for me from it. But yeah, DeAndre Proctor be someone I'll be interested in as a UDFA, certainly.
Right. To break things up a little bit, we've got a question which I want to put to you guys from Ken Stauder, who asks us, of all of the trade backs from 17 for you guys, if you've been doing mock drafts, which team or draft number do you feel worked out the best for you when you've been simulating things, which I think is an interesting question. I think, for me, the one that's been working out the best thus far is dropping down just a few spots to 20 with Dallas. I don't mind the trade compensation of just moving down a few spots, and I still stay in position to draft a really good guy, but I pick up like a 4th or something to go down 3 spots, which I think is fine. Who else offers? Houston seemed to offer a lot to go down all the way to 28. And if you do that, then if TJ Parker's still on the board, that looks quite interesting. If Maxi Atchell's still on the board, that looks quite interesting at 28. If Blake Miller is there, fine. He seems to be available on every mock draft sim at 28. But everyone I've heard in the space talk about him recently says that Blake Miller might go top 20. So that might take us out of the running for Blake Miller. So I think dropping down to 20 with Dallas still keeps someone like hopefully Blake Miller on the board. And you can still trade down from 20 if you want. I do think when we do all these crazy mock draft stuff on whichever is your simulator of choice, you get lots of offers at every single position in the first round, and you do a couple of them just to accumulate a load of picks. But there have been instances where this has happened before, and Jeff Risdon's recent Daily DLP highlighted all of the history from pick 17 as to trades, and there was one specific example where someone traded down from 17 to 19 and then 19 even further down. So, you know, it's not entirely unrealistic that you can get a couple of trades down in there. But yeah, anyway, throwing it open to you guys. Anyone in particular you like trading down with if you do?
I'll go. I haven't done much off in a long time for a start. I don't tend to trade down much just because I don't think we're going to. I'd love to. That'd be my preference. Always get my picks. But if anything, I think we're going to go up. Seems to be the Brad Holmes way early on. But so yeah, I wouldn't want to go much further than probably 21.
All right.
Oh, because that's literally one off where I usually go. So one that has worked out well for me is 22 with the Chargers. They usually try to jump up to get a corner or Tillerman over Minnesota, because that seems to be a hot spot. And then usually there you usually get Miller, Parker, Lomu, who in real life, according to Riz again, seemingly is going to fall out the first. So that's something to keep an eye on. If we do a couple of trade backs, or hell, if we even go back with Buffalo, which is another one I've had a couple of times and I've accepted to 26, they usually again come up for a corner, because you know what the Bills are like with corners, even though they've got Hairston. But that also could then work out for those kind of guys. But yeah, it's usually because there's a couple of tackles on there and Parker and that, I'm like, I can risk it that, you know, they're still going to be there like 10 picks time.
I think, first of all, I think the odds are we go up. I think the lines will go up because I think someone will fall that they like and they'll go and get them. I think more and more that's going to be the case now. Like if Bain starts getting to 10 or 12, or if, you know, someone like Freeland's still there at 10 or 12, then, you know, you start looking at that, and I think the value is there to be had. If you did have to do one, and again, I don't like trading back. We've already got 9 picks, and you're already going to struggle to get all these guys on the roster. You kind of want to do better picks. The one I like is Buffalo, because we did answer this on a Q&A a few weeks back in terms of which one would be the best. To get value, if you go back with Buffalo to 26, you get 60 off them, and you give up 17 and 118. I don't mind giving up 118 now. We've got 128. That leaves you with 26, 50, and 60. And then what I would do with 26, I would take someone like TJ Parker because he's probably still going to be there and he solves my edge needs. And then I'll package 50 and 60 and I'll get right back up to the back end of the first round again, high in the second round. And I'll take my tackle if they fall there. If someone like Ian Acho got down to 33, 34, I'd trade up and get him. I've got my edge and my tackle and I've got better value out of it. Yes, I've got to go to 128 after them, but I'd rather fix the trenches with 2 much better players, and that achieves that. So having the Buffalo one and getting 60 gives you so much you can play with after, or you can trade back 150 or 60 to get another pick back after that. So depending on what you want to do. But Buffalo's the one that makes sense. Cleveland won't do it at 24 because they've got 2 first-round picks. The Bears won't do it with us at 25. And I just don't think there's any point going back 3 or 4 spots, like for what you're getting, for what you're going to lose out on. I just don't think the value's there this year. And I don't think the value's there for Detroit at 17 anyhow. I just don't see who's going to be there, who people are going to be giving up loads to go and get. So I don't think it's going to be very likely.
Fair. All right. Ash, I know you have a bit of a hard out at 10, and if we're going to go into another prospect, maybe now's a good time to say goodbye. I don't know.
Yeah, seems about right. You can see me slowly nodding off, I think, and to be up at 6:30. But hey ho, you know, I can't wait to listen back to the rest of this tomorrow when I'm on the bus to work, and then you know we've also got product trips in my bag as well, so hopefully answer my question as well.
They always do. All right,
it's true.
Good to see you, buddy.
See you in a bit.
Take care, mate. See you soon.
Later.
Right, I know, Paul, you were fighting on who to put in. Is there anyone else that maybe you wanted to highlight?
Oh, yes. Okay. I am going to go for something I just can't quit. I can't get out of my mind, and that is Miles Kitson, the tight end from Tennessee. Now you look at him; he ran like a 4.9 or something in the 40. You've caught me off guard, mate. I haven't got it up, but he ran like a
So
4.9.
sorry.
He ran a 4.9 in the at the combine, and he doesn't look athletic. He doesn't. His production isn't there. I will say on his production that the Tennessee offense is a bit. It's not ideal for linebackers. For tight ends, sorry. Um, they're either going to run the ball or they're going to try and throw it 40 yards to one of their fast receivers. They don't have a lot of intermediate and short stuff. In fact, I think over the last 2 years, he's only got something like 500 yards. But for me, he just looks and moves like an NFL tight end. He's got a quite diverse route tree. He runs all the routes you're going to run in the NFL. He can block. So he was at Bama for a couple of years and then moved to Tennessee. So he's only got just over 550 yards in the last 2 years and done 6 touchdowns. So he's not prolific. But he's more of a blocker. And he just looks and moves like an NFL tight end to me. And I can't quit him. He's well down on the consensus board.
Yeah, 281 he is.
Listen, I thought he was lower than that, but there we go. Yeah, I'm just can't quit him. There's something about him. I can't quit. I know he ran a 4.9? But I see him on tape and he's quite easily outrunning or at least stressing linebackers in coverage. Like they are having to work hard to keep up with him. So I think he either had a bad day at the combine or he just carries the pads better on game day.
And have you seen any of him?
I've not, no. Me and Tennessee prospects don't really get on very well, so just one of those teams that I don't watch very much.
Fair. Right, it's time.
He's just over 6'5", 260, so like he's quite big for tight ends, or classically built for tight end, would say. He's not like one of these thin receiving guys. Yeah, I really like this. Can't quit him.
All right, and a guy for you.
I mean, outside of all the guys I've already done, I mean, it would just be kind of. Don't know who I would really put in there. As I say, Kyle Lewis, the dream, absolutely the dream. Which means the AFC North's going to get him. So I'm already at peace with that. Probably the other guys I would shout out. There are more HBCU prospects. I really want Travonta Abner with the Lions, the Alabama State tight end. And he massively impressed me because of his blocking ability. Like they were pulling him a lot, and he got every single block smack bang hit exactly where he needed to be when he did. We need better blocking tight ends in Detroit. We simply don't have them. But he was also really sneakily good as a receiver, kept somehow getting himself open, like kind of Paul with Kisselman. I've not been able to stop thinking about Abner in that regards, and he's someone I really want to get in the building, just to see what he can do, because we have a tight end spot available and open, and I would like to see him get a shot for it because I think we could do a lot with him, and I think he's got receiving upside there. So I want to shout out Travonta Abner. For damn sure.
Great shout.
I love him. Obviously E40, but I've spoken about E40 at length, so like I'd love him in the building. I have a horrible feeling the Vikings are going to get him like they did with Ivan Pace, which is going to piss me off. Others, I'd say I'll shout out Seth McGowan. I still think he's going to be one of the best running backs out of this class. He's got an absolutely filthy cut move. He's a great north-south runner. I'd still love him as running back 3 here, but he's probably going to go a little too high for us to be spending on a running back, which is a shame. I guess the other one I'd shout out. Too many ones I've. There's anyone else? Obviously Grayson Holton. Mikel Camera, guys like that. Ryger, I know you've mentioned. I love Mason Ryger. I'd love him to be here. Josh Moulton probably be the other one. The corner out of Southern Miss. He's another day 3-1. He is, for my money, one of the best coverage linebackers in this draft period. He sticks like glue to everyone he's up against, even his power four opponents. Like someone's going to get an absolute steal with him. I would hope it's us, but he's only 6 foot, and I do want a bit of a bigger corner. So, but they're the ones I'd really shout out, and then everyone knows my really, really favorite ones. So,
Cool. All right. We had some news that we went through and earlier on in the show, not to rehash that, but Chuck Clark and Avonte Maddox into depth DBs. Any thoughts?
this is not stopping me drafting a safety. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of the beat writers going, "Oh, well, we're quite deep at safety now." It's like, no, we're not. Thomas Harper's third on the depth chart, and with all due respect to Thomas Harper, I love him. But if you're safety 3 on your depth chart when both your starters have long-term injuries, then you're not in a good place. So, um, I still want a starting safety out of this draft, but I'm glad Maddox is back. He is good depth. He's kind of that veteran presence you want in the room, so I don't mind that at all. But anyone who thinks the secondary's all right now, it's not. It still needs a lot of improvement. Obviously, we still need a slot corner as well, so potentially outside my career. But yeah, I'm glad Maddox is back. But yeah, don't let that stop you getting the guy of the future, as they say.
Right. I think it would be good to draw things perhaps to a close there. Any final thoughts before we go? Any final guys you want to give an honourable mention to? We're 3 weeks away now, which is 2.5 weeks away, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, I love the Trey Abner shout out by Ant. He that first drive of the Legacy Bowl, it was all him, all him. And I looked at the he's a bit undersized, so 6'2", 249 is what he's listed at. And I thought, oh, he's just going to be a receiver. He's a H-back type. But then when they got him moving on like the pulls and stuff, especially when he got to the second level, he was a dominant blocker. He opened massive holes for running backs. So I'm really intrigued by him. The other one that I can't quit is David Guster, the defensive tackle from Kentucky. First sprung to my attention at the combine. I don't have his numbers up in front of me, but he moved well. He moved well in the drills. He ran a decent 40 time. He then put up like 37 on the bench. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have a look at this. And that all shows on tape. Like he's good first step, powerful hands into the chest of the lineman. He doesn't do much else other than that. He's only got like 2.5 sacks in his career. Like he's not a productive sack guy. But with that power profile, I can see him being a great backup to Tyleek type player, which is something we need. And I just can't quit that power.
I think the only thing I'd say overall is I can't think of a draft where I've been so uninterested on day one about if the players themselves, like the players I like. I am very uninterested in this first round compared to most years, and day 2 as well. I love day 3 more than usual this year. I don't know why. It's just the feeling I've had the more and more I've done this. Most of the guys I look at here, who I say as I like in this draft, are pretty much all day 3, and it never falls that way. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to day 3 this year, especially the corners. I think the corners are absolutely sensational on day 3 this year, and there's going to be some really, really big steals. And I hope we at least make 1 or 2 of them. But overall, I'm on ice till next year. I can't wait.
Yeah, I agree. Like day 3, day 3 is always my favorite day, but this year especially, I'm really intrigued to see where players are going to end up.
Yeah, I am as well. Like day 1 next year, if it pans out how it's meant to, I'll love it more than any day 1 I've ever had in my life. And day 2, it'll probably be a year next year where I don't care about day 3 at all, which is rare. But yeah, I'm really feeling day 3 this year. The HBCU guys are tremendous. The smaller school guys are really good as well. There's just such a swathe of guys around the running backs. I can't list them all. Even a guy like Jamari Taylor, I'm really looking forward to seeing him as well. The old NC Central running back, but yeah, absolutely wrecked the ACC this year. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Like, yeah, day 3 is just absolute wheelhouse for me this year. I think it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I think by the sound of it, me and you could spend an hour talking about the Legacy Bowl alone.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and maybe only 1 or 2 of those guys are going to get drafted. That's the sort of year this is.
I think only Hunter's got a chance. I don't think any of the others will, which is shocking. But the value's there. The value is there. The practice squads are going to be so important this year because there's a fucking ton of potential, and feels like the last few years we've not made the most of our practice squad guys. We've not been as good with them. So
I'm
this is
also
the year
really,
we can change it.
I'm also really excited to see who we sign as UDFAs because I
That's
will
what I'm
have.
waiting for.
I almost guarantee you, I'll have draftable grades on them.
I just want one guy. I just want one guy this year, please, Brad. One of the ones I like. It's not difficult. I'm tired of seeing the Steelers and the Ravens and the Seahawks take them all. Please, just one.
I'm very scared Ant, about how many times I've seen Dylan Thielman mocked to the Vikings.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
terrifies me.
I'm very scared that the Seahawks keep getting mocked Kyle Louis, which I will break something. I know AJ Halsey's probably going to end up in the north somewhere. I'm ready to be hurt again.
I hate to say it, mate, but he screams like he's a bear to me.
Yeah, I know. It's same with Jaquan because it's Jaquan Brisker all over again. I absolutely adored Jaquan Brisker, and he ended up in Chicago, and I had to end up hating him.
It's gonna be pain.
There's a lot of guys I don't want to end up in the NFC North this year, more so than usual.
Like you might see a grown man cry if Thielman goes to Vikings.
You'll see a grown man cry when Kyle Louis doesn't come here. You'll see some grown man tears for some of these guys.
What? This is just so annoying. Like the dream of him at 50 is over. So it's either going to be in a trade back down from 17 or a trade up from 50, and I just can't see us doing it.
See, this is the first year that's really started doing this where the freshmen I like have taken an entire collegiate career. So these guys, some of them are at 3-4 years of watching them now, and they kind of feel like my guys, and you develop an even more deep attachment to them than I have in previous years. And Waywu's been, 3 years now? Over 3 years since I watched him play at North Texas, and it's like, I'm not ready to see him go somewhere else and be good for someone else.
That's what I feel with Thielman. Like, it's not just because he's a Duck.
Yeah.
I loved him loved him when he was at Purdue. I remember me and you Ant talking about him in the Discord, and Ryan as well. And I loved him. I loved him as a freshman. Loved him as a sophomore. I loved him as a junior at Oregon. And it's going to hurt when he's wearing that horrible purple color.
Oh, you've got Koi Carp at least now. That's sad. That's saddened me. I've loved watching Koi Carp at Minnesota. Now I've got to watch him be a Duck.
All in the same pond, mate.
It's not a bad replacement, to be fair.
No, as long as you don't try what Minnesota tried doing with him and play him on offense as well.
No, I don't think they did that much with him there. But yeah, safety class is insane next year. Well, I'm going to be back to my full-on safety love next year.
I mean, we're getting very much towards college pod era here, but
yeah,
yes, the next year's it's looking so exciting.
Next year's safeties are awesome.
Yeah, safeties, wide receivers, quarterbacks. Sorry, Matt.
No, it's good. I mean, you guys are college guys. I'm not, so I love just listening to you guys.
Yeah.
But it's been a long show, so let's draw it to a close, and we can recoup this time next week and chat about what are we talking about? We are doing. Actually, at the moment, we have a line 7-round mock draft in there. I am going to talk with Ant about maybe pushing that 1 week and maybe shifting things along. Because I think beforehand, we used to do a Monday and a Wednesday show, but we don't have a Wednesday one penciled in. At the moment, the Monday is going to be our betting show. And I'm sure that's a Wednesday show for us before the draft, no?
The only time we do a Wednesday show is the betting one. We just stay Mondays up until the week of the draft. Yeah,
but the betting one is a Wednesday.
Yeah, but you've got to do a full first round mock draft show as well. That's usually the one just before the draft. We always do that the Monday before the draft because in case trades happen, you want to get as close to it because obviously, trades can happen last minute and you spend the whole time doing a mock draft 2 weeks before and then someone trades and fucks it all up. Especially this year where I just don't I don't have a clue. I am genuinely ashamed with how little I'm sure about this year, but I think it feels like consensus across all draft nerds that this year it's just I don't know. It can throw darts.
I don't think it's just the draft nerds. I think it's all 32 GMs as well. It seems such a
Like even my
bizarre.
teams, I've named pretty much every Steeler in the first round in the last 4 years. I can't even do them this year. I can't do them. I'm just so uncertain. I won last year as well, so I've got a reputation to protect, and I don't have a clue. So that's going to be fun.
Right. Live 7 round mock draft on Monday next week. You know where we are on socials. Go and check out Poole's articles on the website, rawthelinesuk.com, rotluk.com. Otherwise, thank you for everyone to listening to this 3-hour marathon. We've highlighted a lot more prospects than I thought we were going to tonight, and all of them have a heart in some form or fashion. Apart from Jaylon Kilgore, who Ash fell out of love with, but said him anyway. Anyway, hope you had a good day. We'll see you next week for this show and College Football Podcast, Dan.
Yeah, it'll be Wednesday. We're doing our top 5 lists. So I do the top 5 guys I like for the Lions. Ryan does the top 5 by skill, which he believes. So yeah, we're doing that this week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks to Ash, who departed a little bit earlier, to Ant, to Poole. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week and later on for the college show. Let's go, Lions. One pride.
One pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.